What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 12 nanoseconds chapter 301. Emperor Yan's sword, Fusion Blackbeard suddenly attacked, shocking both Ace and Luffy. Subconsciously make defensive moves. However, after seeing Blackbeard's movements clearly, Ace reacted immediately, his pupils shrank suddenly, and he screamed, "Stop him!" Ace, who had participated in the Summit War, reacted immediately. Blackbeard is a guy who can steal other people's devil fruit. Blackbeard originally wanted to steal the devil fruit from Whitebeard's father, but because of his uncle's arrangement, he failed. In the end, all he got was a useless bubble fruit. Because of this, Blackbeard was depressed for a while. Ace made a joke about this several times when he was drunk. Although I don't know why Blackbeard was able to break common sense and eat 2 devil fruits, it doesn't make sense now. If Blackbeard's second devil fruit is a top-notch devil fruit, combined with a dark fruit that can render all other devil fruits ineffective, then his achievements will be limitless. But it's just a bubble fruit, no matter how much it is developed, the achievement will still be limited. Therefore, when Ace saw Blackbeard again, he didn't take this matter to heart. However, he never expected that Blackbeard could plunder devil fruit again. The soul fruit is undoubtedly also a top-notch Paramecia devil fruit. If Blackbeard really gets it, Ace shuddered, feeling a sense of uneasiness rising in his heart. No, we can't let him get the soul fruit, Emperor Yan's sword. Ace hurriedly mobilized the flames again. The originally bluish-white flame slowly turned into purple as the temperature rose. At the same time, the scattered flames condensed into a long sword in Ace's hand, and a violent aura continued to flow in the sword. Ace grasped the hilt of the sword and looked at the dark curtain in front of him, his eyes flashing. Cut. Ace swept his sword across. Behind the dark curtain, Blackbeard smiled disdainfully. You don't know your own limits. Dark fruit is the nemesis of all devil fruits. Well, except for one guy. However, apart from a certain scary guy, Blackbeard is still very confident facing Ace's Mera fruit. He didn't even put up a defense, still trying to seize the ownership of the soul fruit. However, before the sword of Emperor Yan could strike the black curtain that should have been nothingness actually began to burn like a piece of paper. The Flame Emperor's sword penetrated the black curtain unhindered and slashed Blackbeard fiercely in front of Blackbeard's astonished eyes. The high temperature of thousands of degrees evaporated all the water in Blackbeard's body in an instant. Blackbeard, who originally had a plump figure, was like a deflated ball. The wounds caused by the Entei sword were not repaired by the dark fruit as before. Instead, the purple flame continued to expand. Blackbeard had a look of panic on his face. The crisis of death looms in my mind. No, it shouldn't be like this. Blackbeard's eyes were about to burst and he screamed wildly. At the same time, his hands were not idle either. He condensed a javelin from dark energy and tried to kill Ace. However, after slashing with the sword, Ace immediately withdrew from the battle circle, not giving Blackbeard a chance to fight back. Advertisement seeing Blackbeard's miserable appearance, Ace showed some excitement on his face. Success, success. Before slashing out with the sword, Ace was not sure if he could succeed. Dark fruit's ability to suppress other fruits is too strong. Fortunately, Ace was taught by Su Ming. No longer obsessed with expanding the attack range of the flame, but instead began to increase the temperature of the flame. The purple flame is the highest temperature that he can reach now, a full 4,000 degrees. With such high temperature, anything it touches will be burned to ashes immediately. And the burns will continue to expand. Blackbeard's dark fruit is not without effect. But the speed of repair is not as fast as the speed of wound extension. Ace smiled as he looked at the burns that were still spreading on Blackbeard's body. Given Blackbeard's current condition, the opponent is doomed. Damn it. What did you do? Why doesn't dark fruit have any effect? Blackbeard yelled frantically. Ace smiled disdainfully. Teach, this sword is slashed for my father. You traitor, you are destined to be reduced to ashes today. Unfortunately, the temperature of the Yandi sword is too high. I'm afraid that not even your ashes will be left, let alone your head. Otherwise I will bring your head to offer in front of my father's grave. The skinny Blackbeard half knelt on the ground, breathing heavily, feeling death approaching. No, I'm not going to die like this. Blackbeard's eyes were full of reluctance, and he was still trying to struggle. Ace was not in a hurry either, as Blackbeard's death was almost inevitable given his current condition. Ace also had no intention of going forward to finish off the enemy. This guy is a very dangerous guy. There is no guarantee that he won't counterattack before he dies. All I have to do is keep a safe distance and watch him die completely. Seeing that Ace didn't come forward and he didn't even have the chance to find someone to take the blame for him, Blackbeard went completely crazy. Damn it, Ace, you deserve to die. Ace remained unmoved. The resentment in Blackbeard's eyes grew stronger. Suddenly, he thought of something, and looking at Charlotte Linlin who was still half alive under him, a hint of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes, and he made a difficult decision. Blackbeard raised his right hand suddenly, and a pure and extremely dark aura burst out from his hand. Under the astonished gazes of Ace and Luffy, Blackbeard's right hand suddenly stabbed into Charlotte Linlin's heart. Ah! Charlotte Linlin, who had been motionless, began to twitch violently due to the stimulation. Charlotte Linlin, who was hanging on to her last breath, raised her head with difficulty and looked at Blackbeard with resentment in her eyes. Kai? Blackbeard remained unmoved, the cruelty in his eyes was clear. Even Ace and Luffy couldn't help but stand on end when they met Blackbeard's gaze and took 2 steps back. Old woman. Die, Blackbeard yelled at the top of his lungs. Advertisement, teach, you want to eat me? Dream on, I am 4 Emperors Charlotte Linlin, and your soul is nothing more than a tonic for me. Charlotte Linlin, who was originally dying, took a breath again and started a tug of war with Blackbeard. The power of the dark fruit and the soul fruit continued to collide, and the flowing energy turned into wind blades that enveloped the two. Ace and Luffy watched this scene and found that the airflow was extremely strong and they couldn't get close at all. Outside the storm, the two could only hear the shouting of Blackbeard and Charlotte Linlin. After a few breaths, the energy storm gradually subsided. But the smoke and dust has not yet settled. Ace subconsciously protected Luffy behind him and looked ahead vigilantly. In the smoke and dust, a figure dragged his heavy legs and walked out step by step. It was not until the figure completely walked out of the smoke that Ace and Luffy finally saw the figure clearly. Hiss, Ace and Luffy couldn't help but gasp. Are you Blackbeard or Big Mom? Ace asked warily, staring at the figure. At this moment, half of Blackbeard's face was Marshall D. Teach's face, and the other half was Charlotte Linlin's face. The figure looked down at the growing burn on his chest and drew a portion of his soul from his body and injected it into it. The burns originally caused by Ace's Entei sword stopped spreading immediately. But the purple flame is still burning. Suddenly, the purple flame opened one eye. Then he detached from Blackbeard, its homies. Ace's eyes widened in disbelief. Blackbeard used the power of the soul fruit. This guy really succeeded. Ace's body tensed up instantly. Blackbeard was already very terrifying, and now he has the ability of the soul fruit. It is very likely that I am no match for this guy. If Blackbeard suddenly attacks at this time, he and Luffy may not be able to leave here alive. Seeing the nervous Ace, Blackbeard had a smug smile on his face. However, just as he took a step, the evil smile on his face suddenly froze, and he suddenly knelt on the ground, covering his face in pain. Auntie's voice came out from Teach's throat. Teach, what have you done? How could I become like this? The old lady cursed with half of her face distorted. Then came Teach's voice again. Old woman, you actually took the opportunity to enter my body. Get out of here. After saying that, Blackbeard actually swung his fists left and right towards his face. He used all his strength in every punch, and even made his teeth fly out. Ace and Luffy looked at each other with strange expressions. Blackbeard and Charlotte Linlin actually merged. Ace looked at Blackbeard and Charlotte Linlin who were fighting for control of the body, and a look of determination flashed in his eyes. Luffy, come with me and get rid of these two guys now. Chapter 302. Collect the historical text. Even though Luffy was usually a little silly, he could tell at this moment that Blackbeard and Big Mom were not in good condition. If either of these two people completely controls their bodies, he and Ace will be in danger. Rubber 8 King Gun. Ace was also unambiguous, with bluish-white flames clinging to his arms. However, just as the two men rushed to Blackbeard, ready to kill him with one blow, Blackbeard, who had been in a state of madness, suddenly raised his head and grabbed one person with one hand, his facial expression constantly changing. Teach and Charlotte Linlin's voices overlap. Get out of here. Then, Blackbeard exerted force on his hands, and Luffy and Ace were thrown out. After flying a full 100 meters in the air, the two finally stopped. Ace supported himself on the ground with one hand, looking at Blackbeard, his eye twitching. How could this guy become so much stronger? The previous Blackbeard was at most an admiral-level fighter. Even in a head-on clash, Ace is not at a disadvantage. But now, Ace had only felt Blackbeard's attack on his uncle. That is an irresistible force. This is troublesome. Ace groaned inwardly. Luffy, if something goes wrong, leave immediately. I'll find a way to hold this guy back. Luffy gritted his teeth and glared at Blackbeard with a stubborn look on his face. I'm not leaving. But just when Ace and Luffy were struggling over who would stay behind to hold Blackbeard back, Blackbeard suddenly roared to the sky again. Old woman, please stop it. Lousy is Blackbeard, he won't be manipulated by you. After saying that, Blackbeard's eyes flashed fiercely, and he raised his hand. A terrifying dark aura gushed out crazily, swallowing up Charlotte Linlin's entire body. In the blink of an eye, Charlotte Linlin's body disappeared. Blackbeard's aura became even stronger. Blackbeard, you dare to eat my body? I want you dead? Charlotte Linlin's roar rang out from Blackbeard's mouth. After saying that, Blackbeard jumped up, drew another soul from his body and injected it into the clouds, and a new homies was born. Then Blackbeard stepped on the clouds and flew away. Ace and Luffy stared blankly at Blackbeard's receding back, not being able to react for a moment. Ace, he left? Ace took a deep breath and sat on the ground. Advertisement. His tense nerves relaxed and he realized that his clothes were soaked with cold sweat. Ace glanced again in the direction Blackbeard had left. The uneasy feeling in my heart still exists. Ace shook his head, cleared his mind of distracting thoughts, and stood up. That guy left and won't be back for a while. Now that the people of the Ant Pirates are being held back by the people we brought here, we should quickly find the historical text. Luffy also stood up angrily. Start following Ace to find the main text of Big Mom's history. Naval Headquarters. Ace returned on a warship and went to Su Ming's office immediately. Entering the office, Su Ming was also there. It looks like he just came back. Ace called out, Uncle. Su Ming nodded, indicating that he heard it. Did you get the things? Ace nodded, got it. Ace took out a rubbing of the historical text from his backpack and placed it on Su Ming's desk. This is the historical text in the ant's hand. One of the pieces is a signpost of the historical text. Luffy has now collected all 4 landmarks. We should go to the final island next. Su Ming was not surprised after hearing what Ace said. Luffy was able to collect 4 historical landmarks so quickly, and Su Ming also put in a lot of effort. If he hadn't collected all of them, Su Ming would have doubted Luffy's ability. Su Ming waved his hand and set up a lightning net in the office, completely isolating the entire room from the outside world. Then he put the historical text brought by Dragon and the historical text brought back by Ace together and pieced them together in order. After a while, all the historical text rubbings were completed and spliced together. Su Ming's breathing became a little faster. After a blank 100 years, the world's greatest secret is finally going to be revealed to me. It would be a lie to say I'm not excited. After taking a few deep breaths and forcing himself to calm down, Su Ming turned his attention to the main text of history. The alien finally revealed his true purpose. Ruling, cruelty, the kingdom turned into hell. The will of the world has come, the curse of God. Hunting. Killing. The first purge in hundreds of years. After reading all the historical texts, Su Ming finally understood the blank 100 years. At the same time, I also learned why Yim wanted to hide this 100 years of history. Because, it was during this 100 years that the true identity of the celestial dragons was recorded. It was also during this period of time that the world's original political power was overthrown, turning the entire world upside down. The rulers of the world change. Devil Fruit shows his vicious side. Celestial dragons are not from this world. Although no one knows where they came from, they are actually a race rejected by the world. The celestial dragons went to war with the will of the world, and ultimately suppressed it with the power of technology. Advertisement: the so-called 3 ancient weapons are actually the weapons produced when celestial dragons went to war with the will of the world. Among them, Poseidon is the product of the world's will. Pluton and Uranus are products of technology. Su Ming waved his hand to destroy all the copies of the historical text and took a deep breath. Uncle, is there any useful information? Ace doesn't understand historical texts, and even if all the historical texts are in front of him, it is still no different from reading a book written in heaven. At this moment, I can only ask Su Ming. Su Ming glanced at Ace. Yes, quite a few, but it's not something you can touch yet. Su Ming patted Ace's shoulder gently. Hurry up and improve your strength. Admiral's strength is just barely enough to make the team. Ace was shocked and couldn't believe it. The Admiral level is just enough to join in the fun. How strong must the opponent be? Su Ming saw the shock in Ace's eyes, understood what Ace was thinking, and shook his head. I don't know how strong he is, but he is definitely stronger than me. Su Ming's words were not an exaggeration. It has been clearly stated in the historical text that there really is a world will in the pirates' world. And celestial dragons have the power to overcome the will of the world. Although my current strength is not weak, it is impossible to defeat the will of the world. Su Ming still has this self-awareness. Ace looked solemn and realized the seriousness of the matter. Su Ming took in all of Ace's expressions. Looking at the nervous Ace, Su Ming suddenly smiled and put on a relaxed smile. There's no need to be so pessimistic. I'm not talking about the opponent. That will happen later. For now, I can still suppress that guy. Perhaps I really had the means to fight against the will of the world in the past, but he definitely doesn't have it at the moment. If this guy really had that kind of strength, this thorn in my side would have died countless times already. Su Ming guessed in his heart that Yim's strength might be restricted by something. As a result, she is now unable to use her full strength. As the former main battlefield, Raftel is likely to have something to deal with celestial dragons. Suddenly Su Ming thought of something and a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. In fact, there is another possibility. Am was unable to use his full strength due to time constraints. The main text of history records an event called the Great Purge after hundreds of years. Before Roger was executed, he also said something inexplicable to Old Man Garp. I went too early. Advertisement chapter 303 Madness. Ace saw that Su Ming was thinking about something and did not interrupt Su Ming's thoughts. Standing quietly aside, thinking about Su Ming's words, I felt more stressed. After a while, Su Ming came back to his senses. Okay, don't tell anyone else what I told you. Go back and rest. Su Ming saw the fatigue on Ace's face and did not let Ace stay here any longer. Ace looked as if he wanted to say something but hesitated. Is there anything else? Su Ming noticed Ace's expression keenly. There's one more thing for us to do when we go to Wangguo this time. Ace thought of the fusion of Blackbeard and Big Mom, and he couldn't help but feel a little scared in his heart. This fear is not because of the opponent's strength, but comes from the instinct of life, just like the feeling of prey encountering a hunter. A fear that comes from instinct. I'm not the only one who went to Wangguo to cause trouble for Andy this time. Besides Luffy and I, Blackbeard Teach also arrived at Wanoku. That guy's strength has improved a lot, but he's still no match for Charlotte Linlin. Su Ming hummed. Charlotte Linlin is a veteran 4 emperors after all, so it's no surprise that Blackbeard is no match for her. This kind of thing did not surprise Su Ming. Ace continued, so after discovering that Big Mom wasn't as easy to deal with as we thought, Luffy, Blackbeard, and I decided to join forces. That's how we successfully defeated Charlotte Linlin. But I didn't expect that Blackbeard was so well hidden and tricked me again. That guy can actually absorb other devil fruits. Ace described to Su Ming exactly how Blackbeard devoured Charlotte Linlin's fruit power and how the two of them now share the same body. Su Ming was also surprised to hear that Blackbeard forcibly absorbed Charlotte Linlin under the pressure of death, resulting in the fusion of the two. After Blackbeard and Charlotte Linlin merged, his strength became extremely strong. Neither Luffy nor I can match him. Uncle, I feel like Blackbeard's strength has probably caught up with yours now. If that guy causes trouble for us, Ace expressed his concerns. Su Ming was silent for a moment, then gave Ace a reassuring smile. I'll take care of Blackbeard's problem. I didn't expect that guy to merge with Charlotte Linlin, but he's not that difficult to deal with. Although Blackbeard and Charlotte Linlin were somewhat difficult to deal with, Su Ming was not without any solutions. Advertisement: even if that guy merged with Charlotte Linlin, at best he would be at the level of 5 elders. After completely mastering the Thunder God fruit, the 5 elders are no longer a threat to him. If it really doesn't work, I can mobilize the super satellite orbital cannon. No matter how difficult Blackbeard is to deal with, he will be obedient after one shot. Ace felt relieved when he heard Su Ming say this. It seems that I still underestimated my uncle's strength. Then uncle, I'm leaving first. Su Ming waved his hand and went back to the table to take out a Den Den Mushi from the drawer. Ace turned and exited the office. Su Ming dialed the phone bug. Sir Su Ming, what's the matter? Vegapunk's voice came from Den Den Mushi. Where are you now? Su Ming's tone was serious. On the other end of the Den Den Mushi, Vegapunk hesitated for a moment, but still said truthfully. I am currently on an uninhabited island in the Grand Line. If you want to come over, I can tell you the location. Su Ming. Go ahead, I'll go there myself. Vegapunk. Just 100 miles due east of Magnetic Drum Island, there is a small rocky island. Below it is the base I modified. Hearing that Vegapunk built its base so secretly, Su Ming curled his lips and sneered. This guy looks honest, but he is actually an old silver coin. A new base cannot be built in just a few days. The old man has been looking for a way out for himself for a long time. He had long anticipated that the world government would one day turn against him. It seems that it is not that easy for the world government to catch you. You are not your real form when you met me. Su Ming said in a calm tone. Vegapunk on the other side of Den Den Mushi gave 2 dry laughs, neither admitting nor denying. I am waiting for Master Su Ming to arrive at the base. After the Den Den Mushi was hung up, Su Ming leaned back in his chair and looked up at the ceiling. Su Ming suddenly felt tired. Everyone is so calculating. I hope that Vegapunk guy can solve the devil fruit problem. Advertisement: if I am can really control all the demon fruit power as he guessed, then the final battle between him and I am can only be completed by one person. The pressure on Su Ming suddenly increased several times. After a short rest, Su Ming left the office. This time Su Ming did not choose to take the boat. He looked up at the sky, and his body turned into a ray of lightning and drilled into the clouds and disappeared. New World, a small island, a village that originally had hundreds of people living in it is now engulfed in flames. Run, that devil is coming. God, save us, run, kid, run to the sea. Bursts of wailing were heard from the firelight. In midair, Blackbeard with 2 faces looked at the dying howls of the civilians below, and pervertedly revealed an expression of extreme enjoyment. Soul plunder. A voice that sounded neither male nor female came out of Blackbeard's mouth. A large amount of black gas surged out from under Blackbeard's clothes. The black gas changed, and in the blink of an eye a strange-looking creature formed behind him. Looking at the fleeing civilians below, the black shadow opened his mouth and his jaw stretched to an extremely exaggerated degree. The civilians who were fleeing just now felt a suction force and stopped immediately. The expression on his face gradually changed from the initial fear to dullness. Things emitting green fluorescence emerged from the civilians' bodies and eventually flowed into the black shadow's body. Blackbeard groaned in pleasure. Well, this soul-devouring power is truly wonderful. The feeling of becoming stronger. Blackbeard. Charlotte Linlin, the soul fruit is a waste in your hands. Charlotte Linlin. Bullshit, you freak, now not only are we fused together, but the dark fruit and the soul fruit are also fused together. Otherwise, devouring souls can at best restore vitality, but it cannot increase strength at all. Blackbeard. Ha 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 ha, no matter what, since Lousy has this ability, this world is destined to fall into Lousy's hands. What celestial dragons, what Su Ming, what Nightbar, what Pirates King. This era belongs only to me. Blackbeard looked crazy. At the same time, the black shadow behind him expanded again, and the souls of hundreds of civilians below were completely sucked dry and turned into his nutrients. Chapter 304. Demon Awakens, joins forces suddenly gaining powerful strength and fusing with a new soul. Blackbeard's mind began to become obviously abnormal. With a wave of his hand, he stepped on the thundercloud and ran directly to the next village. Obviously, he was preparing to continue absorbing life to improve his strength. In the distance, Crocodile and Rain Shiryu looked at each other and saw worry in each other's eyes. Seeing that Blackbeard had gone far away, Crocodile said in a low voice. This guy has gone completely crazy. If he continues like this, something bad will happen sooner or later. Yuji Shiryu took 2 puffs of his cigar, his eyes also full of worry. A few days ago, he could only absorb a few people at a time, but now. Since leaving Wangguo, Crocodile and Rain Shiryu have been following Blackbeard, and it can be said that they have witnessed Blackbeard's little changes with their own eyes. In the past, Blackbeard was just ambitious and unscrupulous, but he was still a human being after all. But now, the two are no longer sure whether Blackbeard still admits in his heart that he is a human being. Or maybe, he has already been a monster in his heart. To be honest, I'm worried that I'll be eaten now that I'm following this guy. Yu Shiryu didn't say anything, but he actually felt the same way. Now when Blackbeard looked to other people, it wasn't like he was looking at his own kind, but more like he was looking at food. Furthermore, the aura Blackbeard himself was also changing rapidly. Every time Rain Shiryu sees Blackbeard, he gets a dangerous feeling like the prey seeing the hunter. Looking at the direction Blackbeard left, Rain Shiryu shook his head. Follow him first, and be ready to leave at any time. This guy is too dangerous now. Find a chance to tell Lord Su Ming about Blackbeard's changes. In less than half a month, Blackbeard destroyed more than a dozen islands in New World. The death toll reached tens of thousands. No one was left alive wherever he passed. Such a big event naturally attracted people's attention quickly. Holy Land, Marijoy, inside the little garden, the two remaining 5 elders knelt in front of Yim. Lord Yim, we have already found out that the incident in New World was caused by Blackbeard. That guy ate 2 devil fruits, causing the devil in the fruit to awaken early. However, because he devoured Charlotte Linlin at the same time, the demon did not devour him. Instead, it showed a tendency to merge with him. Should we get rid of this uncontrollable factor now? With the emergence of Su Ming, the remaining 2 5 elders have become frightened birds. When faced with any uncontrollable factors, their first reaction is to eliminate them completely, without any of their previous idle attitude. Advertisement. After listening to the reports from the two, Yim's lifeless eyes rarely showed a hint of strangeness. Interesting, I didn't expect the fusion of the soul fruit and the dark fruit would produce such an effect. However, the will of the fruit is not so easy to erase. Don't worry about it, wait until Raftel. As Yim was speaking, he suddenly paused, and a playful smile appeared on his beautiful face. I've changed my mind. Go contact him and tell him that the world government can cooperate with him and provide him with a large number of civilians and the coordinates of the final island, as long as he kills Su Ming on the final island. The 2 5 elders were stunned for 2 seconds, then suddenly reacted with delighted expressions. Yimu is wise. After explaining everything, the 2 5 elders returned to their own territory. However, as soon as he entered the room, he saw a figure sitting on his sofa. Shanks. The 5 elders were startled, then noticed Shanks' arm. Your hand. On the sofa, Shanks did not answer the 5 elders' doubts, and said in a deep voice, the ancient Saint Green is dead. Su Ming killed him. The 2 5 elders were surprised to learn of the death of the ancient Saint Green. What, even the ancient Saint Green is not Su Ming's opponent? As true core celestial dragons, the 2 5 elders knew that ancient Saint Grim was stronger than both of them. That guy was a battle maniac when he was young. Every time I see him, even I feel depressed. But even this guy died at the hands of Su Ming. The two of them gasped. How strong is Su Ming now? The 2 5 elders looked at Shanks, hoping to get useful information from him. Shanks paused for a moment. Ancient Saint Green has almost no power to resist Su Ming. After saying that, Shanks pointed to his arm which reappeared. This arm is his. I came here this time to seek your cooperation. The 5 elders were stunned and looked at Shanks with strange expressions. Advertisement, join hands. Shanks, you should know your identity well. Now that the ancient Saint of Grim is dead, what do you think your relationship with the celestial dragons is? The 5 elders had a playful look on their faces. Although Shanks has celestial dragon blood flowing in his body, celestial dragons have always been a cold-blooded group. The emergence of new celestial dragons means that the power of other celestial dragons will be reduced. Although it is a pity that the ancient Saint Grim died, it may not be a bad thing for the 2 5 elders. As long as he makes a little operation, 90% of the power in the hands of ancient Saint Green will fall into his hands. But if he joins forces with Shanks, it would be tantamount to acknowledging Shanks' identity, and he would naturally no longer have a share of the rights left by the ancient Saints of Green. Who would be willing to share the cake that has already been obtained? As soon as 5 elders finished speaking, Shanks's aura suddenly locked onto him. Before he could react, the tip of a western sword was pressed against his throat. If he moved it forward any further, it would immediately pierce his throat. Shanks held the sword, his eyes cold, and the one holding the long sword was the hand of ancient Saint Green. The 5 elders' eyes twitched as their throats were pressed against them. This is the sword skills of the ancient Saint Green. He has passed all his sword skills to you. Shanks did not respond to 5 elders' words, speaking in a cold tone. I know what you were planning. You can divide the power however you want. Over the years, I have been working hard to fulfill Captain Roger's wishes. Now I carry his legacy on my shoulders. Su Ming's existence has affected too many things. He must die. The 2 5 elders looked at each other. After hesitating, a smile appeared on his face. Okay, we can promise you that we will join forces to deal with Su Ming. Who can refuse free help? Shanks retracted his sword and gave the 2 5 elders a cold look. Our cooperation only goes as far as getting rid of Su Ming. Until then, you can't touch Luffy. The Nika fruit is the key. If you have any evil intentions, I will fight you to the death. Don't forget, Celestial Dragon's enemies are not all dead yet. Chapter 305. Kill without mercy. The 5 elders heard the threat in Shanks' words, but they were not annoyed. Since it is a cooperation, we will naturally show our sincerity. Shanks gave the 2 5 elders another threatening look. However, the 2 old monsters who had lived for hundreds of years had the same expression from beginning to end, and even their eyes did not change. Shanks gets up and leaves. In a blink of an eye, the sea remained calm for another 4 months. But with the release of a piece of news, the calm sea boiled again. The news that the Straw Hat Pirates have collected all 4 historical text landmarks spread like wildfire. On the ocean, more than 70% of the pirates choose to go out to sea for the so-called secret treasure of the final island. But as time went by, he discovered that the so-called great secret treasure was nowhere to be found, and eventually he gave up and turned to an extremely decadent desire for enjoyment. But now, the great secret treasure actually appeared in front of everyone. It was no longer an illusion, empty and unreal. After a brief moment of surprise, all the pirates reacted at once. We can't let the Straw Hat crew have all the secret treasure. Lousy has been sailing for more than 10 years, just for the great secret treasure. Guys, let's sail to the new world. All of a sudden, pirates, big and small, all rushed to Raftel. At the same time, Luffy and his crew, who had obtained the historical text and were following the guidance route on the right path, were a little confused. At the bow, Nami looked at the pointer in her hand and frowned. Luffy, are you sure we have the correct historical text? We seem to be going backwards now. Even Luffy, who was a carefree person, was shocked by Nami's words. Going back. Nami, maybe I saw it wrong. Zoro and Sanji also said, yes, after all, we are at sea and there is no magnetic compass. Maybe we are mistaken. Nami rolled her eyes. He threw a magnetic pointer to the two of them. Look at this. Is this Dressrosa's pointer? If that's the case, then we are really going backwards. The Straw Hat guys started to feel uneasy. That shouldn't be the case. Shouldn't Raftel be at the end of the Grand Line? Why would it turn back? Chopper scrunched up his cute little face, looking confused. Suddenly, the pointer pointing at Dressrosa seemed to be disturbed and shook. Etc. Nami noticed this change keenly. Immediately afterwards, a low and loud beast roar was heard in the sky. The Straw Hats who had been to Zo recognized the voice immediately. It's the Elephant Lord. Advertisement. Luffy ran to the bow, shouting excitedly. Robin also walked to the bow, and the sturdy limbs like pillars of heaven appeared in everyone's sight. No, we just left Zo not long ago. Given the Lord of the Elephant's behavior, he shouldn't be here. Robin frowned, noticing something unusual. Although the elephant owner has been walking aimlessly in the New World Sea, one thing is that it has always been moving forward and has never shown any signs of turning around. Wait, look, what is the Elephant Master doing? Usopp, the sniper with the best eyesight among the crowd, pointed at the Elephant Master in the distance and screamed. Following Usopp's gaze, the elephant owner let out a roar and then dipped his trunk into the seabed. Waves hundreds of meters high rose on the sea surface. At the location where the Elephant Master was, the ocean currents directly converged into a mountain. It seemed as if some huge monster was about to emerge from the sea. Thousands of suns are about to be swallowed up by the waves. Oh, Luffy tied his feet to the bow and shouted excitedly. Nami grabbed the fence with difficulty and suddenly noticed something. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Sea currents. The surrounding ocean currents are converging here. I saw a huge island emerging from the sea, and the surrounding ocean currents were drawn towards the island. This is Raftel, the final island. Sanji rushed to the railing and looked at the current below. The fish that originally lived in different sea areas all gathered here because of the water currents. Here is the real legendary sea. Once at the starting point of the Grand Line and the Fishmen Island, Sanji thought he had found the legendary sea. But at this moment, he finally realized that what he had found before was not what he wanted at all. And at this moment, the legendary sea really appeared before his eyes. This is a chef's paradise. Luffy craned his neck to look at the island that suddenly appeared. Is this the island where the pirates King Roger hid the great secret treasure? Robin, who had always been very calm, couldn't help but show some excitement on his face. The final island, a new history. The excitement in the hearts of the Straw Hat Pirates was difficult to calm down for a while. The ultimate achievement of the pirate's career is now in front of him. But at this moment, Zoro's face suddenly darkened, and he thought of something, and shouted to the Straw Hats, hurry up and get on the island. Although everyone didn't know why Zoro was so excited, out of trust in their companions, they hurriedly drove Thousand Sunny towards the island. Advertisement, Green Algae Head, why are you yelling all of a sudden? What's wrong? Sanji looked unhappy. This is the legendary sea. Before I could fully appreciate it, I was interrupted by this guy. In the past, Zoro would have definitely had a few words with Sanji. However, Zoro looked solemn. The currents in the surrounding waters converged toward this island. We don't know yet how far this traction will extend. But one thing is certain, the surrounding pirates will arrive soon. What do you think will happen if they find out we're the first to arrive? After hearing what Zoro said, everyone reacted. By then they will think that we have obtained the great secret treasure, and everyone will become our enemy, Robin said. They may even join forces against us first. The fact is just as Zoro guessed, noticing the abnormality of the ocean current, all the surrounding pirates rushed towards the center of the current. At the same time, in the office, Su Ming's Den Den Mushi rang. Boss, Raftel has been opened, and now pirates of all sizes are rushing towards Raftel. Should we send someone to seal off Raftel? Lucci's voice came from the Den Den Mushi on the other end of the line. Su Ming listened to Lucci's words and shook his head. No, they are just cannon fodder. You can't stop the guy who really wants to stop you. Keep an eye on the movements of Raftel Island. If there are any major changes, contact me and I'll rush over now. After hanging up the communicative call, Su Ming stretched himself, stood up, and looked out the window at the calm sea with a deep gaze. This day has finally come. The appearance of Raftel means that the conflict between himself and I am is completely exposed and must be resolved. Facing such a mysterious enemy, Su Ming couldn't help but feel a little worried. Standing in front of the window, Su Ming closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes again, there was only determination in them. Su Ming picked up the Den Den Mushi and dialed Doflamingo's number. Boss. Doflamingo's voice was trembling. Su Ming knew that the other party must also know the news of Raftel's appearance. I'm going to Raftel now. You take all the core members of the Night Bar to surround the Holy Land of Marijoy. No one from the world government can be released. Doflamingo nodded while holding the Den Den Mushi. Yes, boss. Doflamingo paused, then asked, Master, if someone breaks in. Su Ming's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Kill without mercy. Chapter 306. Upholding justice in this battle, there is no way of retreat for either himself or I am. If you lose, not only will you die, but your forces and people close to you will also be killed. Become the next blank 100 years. Of course, Yim may not have this awareness yet. After all, he has ruled the world for hundreds of years and holds the greatest power in the world. Power can corrupt people and turn them into monsters. It can also make smart people stupid. With power, things that were once difficult around you will become incredibly simple. If you use your brain less, it will naturally degenerate. Doflamingo received Su Ming's order, hung up the phone, and began to mobilize the core members of the Night Bar who had been hiding in recent times. All of a sudden, nearly 100 Vice Admiral-level strongmen emerged from the Four Seas, which was originally regarded as a cradle. On the Grand Line, every island has 2 to 3 elite Vice Admirals and 1 Quasi-Admiral-level strongman. New World, Night Bar has 4 Admiral-level core members. Doflamingo, with the first half of the Grand Line and strongmen from all over the world, surrounded the Holy Land of Marijoy. After arranging the Night Bar, Su Ming called Dorag again. The phone call was answered, and Su Ming got straight to the point. You received the message, right? Dorag. Yeah. Su Ming continued. I have news. Yimu is likely to be able to control the fruit ability users. The middle-level combat power is useless, so there is no need to come. Dorag's expression was serious. What do you need me to do? Su Ming didn't waste any words. I'm taking people to Raftel now. Once I go to war with IM, you will immediately attack other member states of the world government. Try not to disturb the civilians. Don't worry, the good times are over for those kingdom nobles, Dorag said firmly. After arranging the revolutionary army, Su Ming hesitated for a moment, then called Zephyr again. Zephyr's hearty laughter came from the Den Den Mushi. Ha ha ha, kid, I knew you would come looking for me. Tell me, what do you need me to do? Zephyr on the other end of the Den Den Mushi was very excited. Su Ming was still a little hesitant. Seeing Su Ming didn't say anything, Zephyr said dissatisfiedly. Why, brat, you know best why I first left the Marine. I have been waiting for this day. Or do you intend to let me die in obscurity? Hearing Zephyr say this, Su Ming sighed, knowing that Zephyr would have to participate in this battle no matter what. Okay, Senior Zephyr, ask someone you trust to take over the new Marine and be on standby at all times. Advertisement. You will come with me to Raftel. Ha ha ha, that's right, little brat, you don't have to worry about me. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Without waiting for Su Ming to give further instructions, Zephyr hung up the phone out of fear that Su Ming might go back on his word. After explaining everything, Su Ming picked up the lacy on the table, and with a clang, the blade came out. Su Ming took off his gloves and gently wiped the blade. Lacy then let out a sound of sword sound. Su Ming's lips curled up into a smile. A belligerent fellow. Sheath the knife. Su Ming did not hang the knife around his waist, but held it firmly in his hand, and his eyes became cold and sharp. Su Ming turned around and grabbed the marine cloak on the hanger, looking at the word, Justice, on the back and smiled self-deprecatingly. Today these two words have some meaning. Wearing a marine cloak embroidered with the word, Justice, on his shoulders, Su Ming opened the door and prepared to rush to Raftel. As soon as I opened the door, I saw several figures blocking the door. What's wrong, little brat? Do you think we old guys are in the way? Or do you want to be the pirates' king too? Garp, Sengoku, and Suru were followed by Aokiji, Akainu, and Kazaru. Gion was standing not far away holding a knife, looking at him with a smile, as if he wanted Su Ming to give him an explanation. Seeing everyone, Su Ming shook his head and smiled bitterly. You are well informed. Garp chuckled. You little brat, you've been in the Marine for a long time. You think we're spending all that military money on alcohol? Su Ming shook his head. Of course he didn't really think that the Marine would not receive such important information. In fact, if news like this appears on Raftel, no one can completely block it. But Marine has a close relationship with the world government after all. This war, after all, is still a war between ourselves and the world government. Marine high-ranking officials like Garp, who have been in contact with the world government for a long time and understand the dark side of the world government, will not think there is anything wrong. They are fully aware of the world government's shady operations. But in the eyes of the lower-level Marines, the world government is still the representative of justice, and even the Marines must obey the world government. Now that they are openly at war with the world government, these low-level Marines may not be able to change their stance all of a sudden. Moreover, most of the Marine executives are fruitability users. If they really go to Raftel with me, it is hard to say whether it will be helpful or troublesome. But after seeing Garp's determined gaze, Su Ming swallowed back the words that were about to be rejected. Advertisement, okay, teacher, you can come with me. However, Sengoku Senpai, Suru Senpai, Aokiji, Akainu, and Kazaru cannot go. If you really want to help, I suggest you mobilize all the Marine forces now to protect the civilians of the world. The Revolutionary Army will soon attack each member state. Although I have told them not to disturb the civilians, there will be chaos and there will definitely be some ambitious people who will take advantage of the opportunity to cause trouble. Those who have been in cahoots with the world government for many years and have imposed heavy taxes on the common people deserve to be put to death, but the common people are not at fault. First Hope Marine can still stand on the side of justice. Sengoku looked hesitant, but quickly accepted Su Ming's proposal. Okay, I'll do as you say. In fact, he also had concerns in his heart. A few old guys like us are willing to risk our lives to take a gamble with Su Ming. The Marines under him may not necessarily listen to his arrangements. Besides, in this battle, the lower-level Marines were just cannon fodder. It would be better to do as Su Ming said, protect civilians and fulfill the Marines' duties from beginning to end. Garp moved forward and stood next to Su Ming. Stinky boy, it's fine if the others don't go, but I must go with you. And me. Guion, who had been standing aside without saying anything, suddenly said. Su Ming glared at Guion. Why are you joining in the fun? This girl never makes me feel at ease. Guion ignored Su Ming's warning look and curled his lips. I've received the message. I've never eaten devil fruit. Do you think I'll let you go on this adventure alone? You don't have to worry about protecting me or anything. If you can't win this time, the result will be the same. Su Ming was speechless for a moment. If he loses this time, Yim will never let go of the people around him, let alone his woman. Guion pursed his lips and smiled. Don't think about it, I'm not the only one coming. As she spoke, she raised her brows slightly and made room for him. A figure walked out from behind Guion. Su Ming couldn't help but cover his face when he saw the figure clearly. Hey, why are you here too? Khalifa walked out from behind Guion. If I don't come, you're not going to call me? Chapter 307 Raftel, Clan D. New World. After the Straw Hat pirates landed on the island, just a moment later, dozens of pirate ships arrived. The pirates were either excited or crazy. Land on Raftel with your weapons in hand. The great secret treasure is mine. A pirate who had just entered the New World shouted excitedly while waving the scimitar in his hand. However, just as he finished speaking, the sharp tip of the knife on his chest suddenly pierced through his body, and drops of blood dripped onto the ground. The pirates who were full of vigor and vitality a second ago, their eyes quickly blurred. You. Hey, sorry, Captain, there is only one person who can get the great treasure, but it's not you. Before he died, the pirate discovered that the person who stabbed him in the back was actually the deputy captain whom he had always regarded as his confidant. Similar things happen frequently on Raftel. Faced with the most tempting treasure in the sea, the evil and greed in human nature gradually awaken. Raftel, which had been silent for hundreds of years and barely managed to cleanse the bloodline on the island, was once again stained with blood. Those who could not control their greed fell on the outskirts of the island. The pirates passing by looked at the bodies scattered all over the ground but failed to learn any lessons. At the same time, the Straw Hat crew passed through the dense forest and arrived at the center of the island. Is this the remains of Raftel? Like Sky Island? In front of the Straw Hat people, there is a ruined city. But the past glory of this city can still be seen from the ruins. It is unknown what the blue-gray city gate is made of. It has been soaked in seawater for hundreds of years but has not decayed. There seem to be patterns with unknown meanings engraved on it. Robin walked forward, gently stroked the patterns on the city gate with his hand, and his eyes became bright. This is ancient writing. Luffy heard it and the rest of the people wearing straw hats gathered around. Robin, what does this say? To Luffy, the words on the city gate were no different from scribbles. Robin calmed down his excitement and explained, this is the history of this country. Suddenly Robin laughed and turned to look at Luffy. Luffy, this is also related to you. Luffy was stunned and scratched his head. Is it related to me? Robin nodded. Well, it's about you. There once was a kingdom here, and the nobles of this kingdom had one thing in common. They were called the D-Clan. Robin stopped talking after she mentioned the D-Clan. She wanted to see how Luffy would react. However, Luffy, who was too careless, was bound to disappoint her. Luffy just scratched his head. Ah, what a coincidence, you have the same last name as me. Straw Hat people. Robin was speechless. This is not a coincidence. According to what is written here, you are most likely the descendant of this kingdom. If it were an ordinary person, knowing that the ruins of this kingdom were actually left by their ancestors, they would be more or less excited. This is equivalent to going from a thief to the natural heir to the estate. Advertisement, although it has no practical effect, it is still a legitimate reason. But Luffy had no such awareness at all, and instead looked at Robin curiously. Any other useful information, such as Roger's great secret treasure? Seeing that Luffy didn't take what he said seriously, Robin just felt bored. But he still explained to Luffy, the things recorded on this gate are limited. The truly useful ones should be in the city. I hope the historical information inside is well preserved. Robin raised his head and looked at the city. His curiosity as a historian was aroused. Over there, a voice sounded behind the Straw Hats, waking them all up. The Straw Hat crew looked back and saw dozens of pirates rushing out of the dense forest with bloodline on their bodies after the fight. Thinking of what Zoro said before, the Straw Hats reacted. Zoro pulled out the knife and held it in his hand, looking around vigilantly. The rest of the Straw Hat pirates also realized that something was wrong and took fighting stances. In the dense forest behind the pirates, new pirates kept emerging. The pirates who had experienced betrayal and fighting in the jungle no longer suppressed their greed. When he saw the Straw Hat guys, he was stunned at first, then his eyes changed and fixed on greed. They had eyes like those of wolves, and their rationality had long since disappeared. It's the Straw Hat pirates. They were the first to land on the island, and the great treasure must have fallen into their hands. For a time, the Straw Hat pirates became the target of public criticism. Oh no. Zoro wanted to shock these pirates, but he found that he was being too naive. The temptation of the great secret treasure is too great, and we alone cannot be scared by it. After all, it was the Straw Hat pirates' failure to intimidate this group of people. Although these pirates were not all top pirates and were no match for him at all. But now, under the temptation of the great secret treasure, they have lost their minds. Into the city. Luffy turned around and yelled to everyone. Luffy originally wanted to use conquerors to clean up this group of pirates. Most of those who might pass through the dense forest are not minions, and they are not something that the conquerors can deter. There is only one way to die if you confront this group of crazy pirates head on. The only way to survive now is to enter the city and deal with these pirates with the help of buildings. The blue-gray city gate is even thicker than expected. Luffy and his companions did not dare to waste time and quickly climbed over the ruined city wall. The buildings within the city walls were also displayed more clearly to everyone. The buildings here are even more beautiful than what I saw in Sabaody Archipelago. Robin sighed as he ran and looked at the surrounding buildings. Wait, look over there. Luffy pointed to the center of the city. A glimmer of light shone from inside a medieval castle-like building. In the center of the city, that should be the king's palace, Robin said excitedly. Luffy's eyes lit up as well. Is the great secret treasure there too? Advertisement. Robin nodded. Very likely. Luffy became even more excited. Great treasure. Haha, here I come. Hearing Luffy's excited cry, Zoro's pupils shrank and he thought of something. Luffy, stop messing around. However, Zoro was still a little slow in speaking. Without waiting for his companions to react, Luffy stretched out his arms, stopped the Straw Hat group with one hand, and reached over 1,000 meters with the other hand to grab the top of the tall building. The familiar movement startled the Straw Hats. Idiot, what are you doing? Stop it, it will kill people. The buildings here have been submerged in the sea for so many years, and after being hit by Luffy, they are likely to collapse. By then, everyone will be buried alive. Zoro growled at Luffy. Luffy grinned. If we go faster this way, we can just shake off those people behind us. Without waiting for the others to say anything, Luffy's arms began to shrink. The Straw Hat pirates once again experienced what it meant to feel like the wind. At the same time, the pirates also rushed to the city gate. Suddenly, a bolt of thunder exploded in the sky. A violent gust of wind pressure made everyone unable to raise their heads. There were also some pirates who were capable of passing the test. They noticed something was wrong and looked up. I saw a black spot gradually getting bigger in my eye. She-4 Emperor's Kaido. Boom. Kaido's body slammed into the ground, creating a gust of air that knocked over most of the pirates blocking the city gate. Raftel, the ultimate secret treasure is not something that people like you can covet. The burly Kaido slowly walked out of the smoke, carrying his mace. The terrifying pressure was upon everyone. The pirates, who were so aggressive a second ago, were frightened and took 2 steps back. Facing the Straw Hat pirates, they dared to wield swords. But when facing Kaido, they immediately regained their sanity. After all, the Straw Hat pirates won't kill anyone. But Kaido, he had fought his way out of a sea of blood and corpses. Kaido glanced calmly at the pirates. All the pirates who met his gaze lowered their heads silently. A bunch of rubbish. As soon as he finished speaking, a shrill laugh sounded from the sky again. Ha 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 ha, Kaido, you were right, this group of ants are not worthy of seeing the great treasure. But it can be used as my food. Kaido turned around sharply and looked. Just at that moment he felt a cold breath locking onto him. In midair, Blackbeard, whose appearance had changed drastically, was seen stepping on a cloud of fire, greedily looking at the pirates below. That's the look one gets when looking at food. Chapter 308 Hades. Blackbeard's sudden appearance gave everyone who had already been scared away by Kaido a chill. Fear gradually appeared in the eyes of the pirates. The timid pirates began to retreat. Blackbeard seized the opportunity and waved his hand to send out a dark aura that enveloped the dozen or so pirates who wanted to retreat. A dozen pirates were unable to dodge and were directly swallowed up. Blackbeard showed an evil smile on his face and licked the corner of his mouth greedily. A creepy chewing sound came from the black fog. Ah, what is that? Damn it, get out of here, ah. Don't come over here, there seems to be something unknown in the black fog. The painful wails accompanied by the sound similar to that of a wild animal chewing food gave people goosebumps. The pirates around them stepped back unconsciously. Try to keep a safe distance between yourself and the black fog. Kaido became more alert when he saw Blackbeard's strange method. I warned myself that this was a dangerous guy. The creepy sound in the black fog soon disappeared, and the fog slowly returned to Blackbeard's body. Where the group of pirates had just stood, only Madara's bloodline remained. Combined with the voice that just came out of the black fog, the way everyone looked at Blackbeard changed completely. Monster, monster, this guy is not a human, he is a monster. Even the most vicious pirates would not do such horrific things in front of others. Blackbeard is cannibalizing people. This is not something a normal person can do. Faced with the dual pressure of Kaido and Blackbeard, the pirates finally realized that this was not the place for them. Run. I don't want any great secret treasure anymore, let me go, let me go. The pirates, who had been scrambling to get out of the jungle, now rushed back into the jungle at an even faster speed, regretting that they had not grown 2 more legs. After all, if you were a step slower, you might be eaten clean by Blackbeard. Blackbeard had no intention of letting this group of people go. Ha ha ha, food should be aware of being food. Darkness invades. More black fog rushed towards the fleeing pirates, obviously wanting to eat them all up. The escaping pirates looked at the dark shadow on the ground with despair in their eyes. No, I don't want to die. Unfortunately, their speed was nothing under the invasion of the black fog. Just at this moment, advertisement, Thunder 8 trigrams. Kaido, who had been standing aside silently, suddenly took action. The top hockey was wrapped around the wolf fang iron rod, carrying great power, and headed towards Blackbeard's black mist wheel. In front of hockey, the illusory black mist seemed to be real, and it was in a stalemate with Kaido's mace. In the end, it was defeated by Kaido and retreated. In midair, Blackbeard narrowed his eyes at Kaido and said coldly, Kaido, do you want to meddle in other people's business? Kaido shook his numb arms and sneered. Eat them, and it will be my turn next. Kaido is not a pushover. The number of people who died at his hands over the years may not be less than Blackbeard. But just now he noticed that after Blackbeard killed those pirates, his aura became noticeably stronger. If he were to devour all these pirates, he might not be the guy. For his own safety, Kaido must save these ignorant pirates. Blackbeard was not angry when his thoughts were exposed. Instead, he looked at Kaido and laughed strangely. The face began to distort. Ha 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 ha, Kaido, it seems you are not just a guy with muscles but no brains. Blackbeard covered his face with his hands. When he released it again, the right half of his face turned into Charlotte Linlin's. Charlotte Linlin? Kaido was shocked. Blackbeard made Charlotte Linlin's voice. Mamamo, Kaido, I didn't expect you to recognize me. Kaido, where's Charlotte Linlin? Old woman, it turns out you really lost. A few months ago, Kaido received news that Ace, Luffy, and Blackbeard had joined forces to defeat Charlotte Linlin. But reports said that Charlotte Linlin's body had not been found. Kaido, who knew how terrifying Charlotte Linlin was, didn't take it too seriously. Even if the 3 of them teamed up to defeat Big Mom, she should be able to survive thanks to her strong physique. But he didn't expect that when he saw Charlotte Linlin again, she would become what she is now. When Charlotte Linlin heard Kaido say that she lost, an angry expression appeared on half of her face. No, I didn't lose, it was this guy. Charlotte Linlin manipulated her body and pointed at herself and said excitedly. This guy is a dark fruit user. He wants to forcibly absorb my devil fruit. Charlotte Linlin was halfway through her words when Blackbeard suddenly interrupted her with a shout. Shut up, old woman, do you want to reveal all our secrets? Charlotte Linlin reacted and quickly covered her mouth. Suddenly, Blackbeard and Charlotte Linlin laughed again. The crazy laughter made people's hair stand on end. Advertisement suddenly, the laughter stopped. Blackbeard and Charlotte Linlin's voices rang out at the same time. He looked at Kaido with greedy eyes. Kaido, I have a great idea. Why don't you join us? For a moment, Kaido felt like he was being stared at by something scary. He had only felt this feeling from Su Ming. A feeling of uneasiness rose in my heart. Blackbeard didn't give Kaido time to react. Release the black aura again. Kaido quickly put the mace in front of him. Blackbeard's black energy is very difficult to deal with. You must not be enveloped by this energy, otherwise even you may not be able to withstand it. However, Blackbeard did not release the black energy as before. Looking at Kaido, he smiled contemptuously. He suddenly thrust his hand into the black air. The ability of the soul fruit was activated, and the dark aura twisted and turned into a hound. Hades. Kill him. Homies, created by the dark aura, received the order without hesitation and rushed straight towards Kaido. At the same time, Hades' size doubled with every step closer. When it came to Kaido, it was as big as a small mountain. Even Kaido seemed a little small in front of it. Hades opened his bloody mouth and tried to swallow Kaido whole. Kaido was instantly overwhelmed by a sense of crisis. Great power Thunder 8 trigrams. Kaido did not dare to be careless and used all his strength. He had seen the homies created by the soul fruit, but the one in front of him was definitely the most terrifying one. Thunderous 8 trigrams smashed down towards Hades' face. Hades, who was as big as a hill, staggered after being hit, and his head was directly sunken. For ordinary people, this would be a fatal injury, however, Hades shook his head. The sunken wound healed instantly, and it looked at Kaido again, with an even more ferocious look in its eyes. Saliva dripped from the corners of his mouth onto the ground, corroding deep pits in the ground and making a sizzling sound. Blackbeard stood on Hades' shoulders, hugged his shoulders, and looked down at Kaido, his eyes full of mockery. Kaido, just let me eat you. I will take you with me to become the king of the world. Chapter 309 Accountability Outskirts of Raftel. Hundreds of warships flying the new marine flag surrounded the island. Su Ming stood on the deck, and behind him, Zephyr, Garp, Gion, Khalifa and other trusted men were looking in the direction of Raftel Island. The hound that was as big as a hill was sensed by several people's observation hockey. Garp looked serious. According to the pirates we just captured, Kaido is fighting Blackbeard. That black hound must have been created by Blackbeard. This guy's strength has improved so much, although far away, the dangerous and evil aura could still be clearly sensed. The people present were all top admiral level warriors, so they could naturally see how terrifying the black dog was. Su Ming was not surprised at all. Blackbeard originally had a special physique, and now he has merged with Charlotte Linlin, so it's no surprise that he has such strength. Gion walked forward and said worriedly, Kaido should have no problem dealing with Blackbeard on his own. Su Ming looked in the direction of Raftel and shook his head. In the past, Kaido would have no problem dealing with Blackbeard alone, but now. Kaido is not a match for Blackbeard. Does that mean you are the only one who can suppress Blackbeard? Gion frowned, worry flashing in his eyes. Behind Su Ming, Khalifa walked forward, also took a look at the movements on the island, and sighed secretly. That's not surprising. After all, it incorporates Charlotte Linlin's power. And that guy is a freak. I asked people to keep an eye on him when he was at the nightclub. That guy never sleeps, and he seems like a different person every once in a while. It's a pity that he stayed in the night bar for too short a time. I didn't have time to investigate further and he escaped. I didn't expect it to be such a big problem now. Speaking of Blackbeard, Khalifa felt a little regretful. I thought that Blackbeard's peculiarity was only caused by the dark fruit, but now it seems that this is not the case. Blackbeard himself has a lot of problems. Su Ming shook his head and smiled. Blackbeard is very ambitious. He has been in the Whitebeard Pirates for so many years without revealing his true colors. Most people can't do that. Gion frowned when he heard that and asked with some rejection. Should we go help him? Help the pirates? Gion was obviously reluctant to think that he might have to help the pirates. After all, she was a Marine, and now she had to help pirates, which was hard for her to accept. Advertisement Su Ming turned his head to look at Gion and shook his head. Kaido may not be a match for Blackbeard, but he won't die anytime soon. Let these pirates deal with it on their own for a while. Although we have a very strict blockade, it is impossible to stop Raftel from appearing in the world. People from the New World will arrive soon, and there will inevitably be a big fight on the island. There's no need for us to waste time on these people. We just need to prevent Kaido from falling into Blackbeard's hands. I am the only one who can suppress that guy's current strength. If he devours Kaido again, it will be a big trouble. The final battle between me and IM will take place on this final island. Blackbeard is an ambitious guy who is wavering in his stance and he doesn't want to be stabbed in the back. If Yim might arrive at any time, Su Ming would definitely take action immediately to kill this guy. As for the pirates coming from all directions, Su Ming was not worried. He had been paying attention to Blackbeard's changes since the beginning of the fight. This guy's growth must have reached a certain limit, and devouring ordinary pirates doesn't bring much improvement. Su Ming turned to look at Garp and Zephyr. Stinky old man, I won't have the energy to deal with other people once we land on the island. Leave Yimu to me, and the others will be left to you. The others that Su Ming referred to were naturally the remaining 2 5 elders. Su Ming knew the strength of those 2 people. Garp, who has been taking life potions, should be able to hold off one. As for the remaining one, it should be no problem for Gion, Khalifa and Zephyr to join forces. In addition, the Celestial Dragons Knights of God themselves have called the Night Bar to stop in the Holy Land of Marijoy. Garp and Zephyr both grinned and looked ready to fight. Hey, don't worry, Brad. They're just 5 elders. I've been annoyed with them for a long time. Su Ming withdrew his gaze and returned his attention to the island. Meanwhile, the Holy Land of Marijoy. Inside the hall, 2 5 elders knelt on the ground with cold sweat on their foreheads. Lord Yim, the Holy Land has been besieged. The Knights of God, CP0, and world government fighters are trying to stop it. The martial god of law, Holy Vokuli, reported the situation in the Holy Land with a trembling voice. At the same time, the god of agriculture also reported his news to IM. Raftel has appeared, but the devil fruit has not been discovered yet. Based on previous experience, it will take about a day for the devil fruit tree to wake up. Advertisement on the throne. The expression on Yim's face was still as cold as ice that had not melted for 1,000 years, without any change, as he looked down at the 2 5 elders. The 2 5 elders on the ground felt as if an invisible hand was strangling their necks, making it extremely difficult for them to breathe. Death was approaching them little by little. Lord Imu. When the 2 were about to faint, Yimu asked, there are so many top fighters hidden in the night bar, and you haven't discovered it yet? Feeling the tightness disappear, the 2 of them gasped for breath, and the lapels on their backs were already wet with cold sweat. The 2 knew that Yim was extremely angry. The sudden emergence of these fighting forces disrupted her plans. Lord Yimu, it is my incompetence. These combat forces have been hiding in the night bar and being secretly trained by Su Ming. Su Ming has the privileges you gave him, and we can't target him. Saint Vokuli's words sounded like he was admitting his mistakes, but in reality they were also meant to excuse himself. It's not entirely our fault that so many top fighters suddenly appeared in Taimiao Night Bar. If you hadn't been brainwashed by Su Ming and created the position of Inspector 5 Elders, we wouldn't have to be so timid. Now, we are no longer passive and slacking, and Su Ming has directly created a second empire. Yim heard the complaint in the 5 Elders' words, but he also knew that he was indeed a little bit wrong in this matter. But there was no way she would admit her mistake. I really didn't expect that the control power of the devil fruit's origin would not work on him. But you are also responsible for this matter. I will spare you for now. After the purge, if you still do nothing like you are doing now, you will be removed from your position as 5 elders and become a pariah. The 5 elders who were kneeling on the ground with their heads down glanced at each other secretly, and saw a trace of helplessness on each other's faces. Heaven and earth can testify that Su Ming is not a good person, and I have reported this myself. But at first didn't believe it at all. Later on, that guy became our leader. If you don't believe us and start believing in others instead, how do you report to us? But the 2 of them could only keep these words in their stomachs. If he dared to say these words in front of Yim, he didn't know whether Su Ming would die or not, but the 2 of them would definitely be dead. Yim sat on the throne, pondered for a moment, and then stood up. Let the Knights of God resist the core members of the Night Bar. Once you're repelled, immediately support Raftel. Before that, you 2 and I will rush to Raftel immediately, land on the island and start this round of cleansing before the devil fruit tree wakes up. Chapter 310 Domination of the Sea. On the deck of the warship, Su Ming used his observation haki to watch the battle between Kaido and Blackbeard on the island. Su Ming suddenly said, "Kaido is dying." Garp was a little bit incredulous. In 4 hours, Blackbeard's strength has really improved a lot. By this calculation, even I am probably no match for him. Kaido was known as the strongest creature before Su Ming appeared. Even when facing the siege of 3 admirals at the same time, he could hold out for a whole day and night thanks to his strong physical fitness, and was not captured until he was exhausted. But now in Blackbeard's hands, it has reached its limit in just 4 hours. If it weren't for his own perception of sight and sound, Garp would have found it hard to believe such a thing. Aside, Zephyr looked at the increasing number of pirates' ships around him. There are already quite a few pirates gathered on the island now. More than 80% of the New World's pirates are here. But they didn't fight each other like you said. The fight between Blackbeard and Kaido was a huge shock to them. Everyone knows that they can't obtain the great secret treasure by themselves. Su Ming smiled when he heard this and didn't take it seriously. He knew what Zephyr meant. Although this group of pirates were not top-notch pirates, they could still be a big problem if they stuck together. All the top fighters on his side have been assigned corresponding opponents. When the time comes, this group of united pirates will take advantage of the situation and it is likely that unknown variables will arise. Su Ming was not worried at all. Teacher Zephyr, don't worry. These guys don't pose any threat. If you don't believe me, just look. Su Ming just finished speaking. In the center of Raftel Island, in the direction where Luffy and his companions arrived, a golden light suddenly spread out. That is the light reflected by gold in the sunlight. Only an insane amount of gold could create such a spectacle. The pirates who were still blocked outside the city saw the golden light. The companions who were huddled together in the last second once again showed greed in their eyes. It's treasure. Roger's treasure. One Piece is real. I don't know who in the crowd reacted first. These 2 sentences touched everyone's heart. The greed in people's hearts is like a flood that cannot be stopped. Go. One Piece is inside. Get out of here. The great secret treasure belongs to Lousy. In front of the great secret treasure, the fear of Kaido and Blackbeard was suppressed again. The crowd was in chaos, rushing towards the city one after another. Some even realized that no matter how much treasure they had, it was limited, and began to signal their crew members to stab others. However, such pirate groups often take advantage of the captain's inattention to directly crush his kidneys. After all, in front of the great secret treasure, everyone except oneself is a competitor, and it doesn't make much difference whether the knife in one's hand is stabbed at an outsider or at one's own people. In comparison, it is easier to succeed with our own people. On the deck, Su Ming and his companions watched the chaotic scene. Looking at a group of treacherous pirates, Zephyr snorted coldly, clearly expressing his disdain for such behavior. At the same time, he did not forget to make up for the slap in his face. I overestimated these guys. It's better to expect celestial dragons to act like normal people than to expect them to cooperate. Advertisement. Su Ming chuckled. It's not surprising, pirates. They're thieves after all. It's normal for them to be two-faced and forsake their principles when they see profit. After saying that, Su Ming adjusted his marine cloak and held the knife in his hand. Let's go, it's time for us to go to the island. Raftel. Kaido stuck his mace into the ground, trying to support his body. There were wounds all over his body, and he was still gasping for breath. Blackbeard jumped down from the fire cloud and sneered disdainfully. Ha 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 ha, the strongest creature, is this it? But I can't blame you, I'm just too strong now. Asterisk a caret asterisk dollar asterisk caret. Don't worry, I'll eat you in a bit. You'll become very strong. No, you'll become even stronger. Blackbeard was like a drug addict who was too high. He completely ignored Kaido and talked to himself. Kaido forced himself to stand up, a fierce look in his eyes. His aura continued to increase, and his wounds began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, his already tall body continued to expand. He actually caught up with Hades, who was almost as big as a hill. Kaido's entire body is covered with a layer of blue-green scales, which sparkle with metallic luster, demonstrating his terrifying defensive power. Blue Dragon Fruit Beast Man form. Blackbeard, lousy as Kaido. Kaido of the beasts, not some small fry, come again. Kaido picked up the hip flask and took a big gulp of the liquor, and his aura reached its peak. He exerted force with his legs and dived into the clouds, causing the ground to collapse in a circular pattern. The black lightning formed by Conqueror's haki flashed. The third generation. Inducing Naraku, Kaido's voice rang out from the clouds. The next second, Kaido broke through the clouds, raised the mace above his head, and smashed down with tremendous force. The black thunder condensed by Conquerors really connects heaven and earth like lightning. Blackbeard looked up at Kaido, his expression becoming even crazier. Ha 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 ha, this is more like a real thing, but... There was some excitement in Blackbeard's eyes, with a hint of scarlet in his eyes, and the dark aura in his right hand gathered and turned into a long sword. In her left hand, she holds the Napoleon that originally belonged to Charlotte Linlin. Feel Laozi's newfound power. Armament haki is attached to the blade. Kaido was disdainful when he saw this. Blackbeard, to be truly strong, the fruit is not necessary. Only haki is the true path to becoming a strong man. You're still far away. In front of the top conquerors, armament haki is simply not enough. Kaido had already noticed that since the beginning of the battle, Blackbeard had not used Conqueror's tactics, which were essential for top warriors. That can only mean one thing, Blackbeard doesn't have Conquerors. This is the key to your victory. Kaido's grip on the mace tightened a little. Concentrate all your strength on this one strike. Die. The iron rod wrapped around the top Conquerors came crashing down on Blackbeard's head. If this attack hits, it will be enough to defeat the top 4 emperors. Seeing that Blackbeard had no intention of avoiding him, Kaido showed joy on his face. Advertisement suddenly, his expression froze. Kaido noticed that Blackbeard was laughing. The look in that guy's eyes was clearly full of sarcasm, as if he was saying that he was overestimating his own abilities. The next second, the blade that originally only had the armament color on it lit up with the black thunder belonging to Conqueror's haki. Blackbeard smiled with a look of triumph. Ba, hi. As soon as the word, ba hi, came out, Blackbeard crossed his 2 swords in front of him and pointed them at Kaido. A sense of jealousy rose in Kaido's heart. The extremely powerful impact tore through everything in front of Blackbeard. Kaido's powerful ultimate move collided with Blackbeard's attack and was only blocked for a moment before it broke through the resistance and swallowed Kaido's body. The terrifying impact broke through the clouds in the sky. Everything is settled. The mace in Kaido's hand broke into 2 pieces, and he fell to the ground powerlessly without any strength left. Blackbeard once again gathered the strange energy unique to the dark fruit in his hands, walked step by step to Kaido, a smile of victory on his face. Kaido, become a part of me. Kaido, who was one of the 4 emperors, had a glimmer of despair in his eyes. Hey, I didn't expect that you not only inherited the old woman's devil fruit, but also learned this trick. Bahai, a combined attack skill he and Charlotte Linlin developed based on the Spear of Elbaf when they were in Rock's Pirate in their early years. Apart from himself and Charlotte Linlin, no one else would use this trick. I didn't expect Blackbeard would use this trick to defeat me. When Blackbeard heard what Kaido said, he covered his face and laughed crazily. Mamo, Kaido, you are still so naive. Bahai, without my cooperation, Blackbeard alone can't use this move. Charlotte Linlin's voice rang out again. Kaido's pupils shrank, and he guessed something. Old woman. Just now he had been feeling that Charlotte Linlin had been absorbed by Blackbeard. Although she still had some consciousness, she could not control her body. But now it seems that I was completely wrong. Blackbeard's body is actually being controlled by 2 people now. The Blackbeard in front of him is not just Blackbeard, but a combination of Charlotte Linlin and Blackbeard. Charlotte Linlin has also accepted the current state of coexistence. Kaido had a look of relief on his face. Oh, old woman, I am defeated by you. But Laozi won't merge with this guy like you do. Kaido glared at Blackbeard and roared, come on, try to devour Laozi. See who will take control of your freak body in the end. Blackbeard sneered, and without further ado, he slowly extended his hand wrapped in darkness towards Kaido. Then let's try. Blackbeard's hand was about to touch Kaido. After absorbing Kaido, he no longer had any rivals in this ocean. One step closer to becoming the king of the world. But at this moment, a hand grabbed his wrist from the side. Hey, eating randomly is not a good habit, don't you think, my good son? Su Ming came to Kaido at some point and looked at Blackbeard with a smile. Chapter 311 Su Ming. Am I a part of your weird play? Blackbeard raised his head and met Su Ming's half-smile. Su Ming. He immediately realized that Su Ming's address to him just now made his 2 already weird faces become even more distorted. Shut up, hole. Blackbeard's eyes showed strong hatred. The way Su Ming addressed himself just now was undoubtedly humiliating to himself. Blackbeard is a very ambitious man. For the sake of his ambition, he can endure many things that ordinary people cannot endure. For dark fruit, he could hide in the Whitebeard pirates for 20 years, or even be prepared to do so for the rest of his life. In order to survive, he acknowledged Su Ming, a guy younger than himself, as his adoptive father and begged for mercy. He can give up his dignity in order to achieve his goals. But that was when he was weak. When he hid and lowered his head, he was not without hatred in his heart. On the contrary, he hated it to the extreme, and he kept all this hatred in his heart. Now, he has become strong enough and his ambition is about to be realized. Even the 4 emperors Kaido is under his feet. I don't have to hide anymore, I don't have to give in anymore. He wanted to vent all the humiliation he had suffered over the past few decades. He will repay those who have humiliated him 100-fold or 1,000-fold. He wants to release his hatred, and Su Ming is the person he hates the most. After Ultimate's anger, Blackbeard suddenly smiled again. Ha 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 ha, Su Ming, you're just in time. Kaido, you're still a little bit off. If I swallow you, no one in this ocean will be my opponent. As he spoke, the dark aura in Blackbeard's hand moved as if it had life and quickly spread towards Su Ming. Kaido's pupils shrank and he quickly reminded, "Be careful, this black gas is very strange and can devour lives." Hearing Kaido's words, Blackbeard sneered. The wrist that was grabbed by Su Ming turned over and grabbed Su Ming's wrist with his backhand. Blackbeard laughed strangely and looked at Su Ming coldly. "If you hadn't come, you could have lived a little longer. But now, I won't let you go." Blackbeard grasped Su Ming's arm tightly, and the dark aura quickly spread to Su Ming's entire arm. Seeing this, Blackbeard showed joy on his face. He seemed to have seen the fear on Su Ming's face when he was swallowed by him. "Come on, Su Ming, be part of us." Charlotte Linlin's voice also rang out, with obvious excitement in her voice. "Mamo, Su Ming, I thought about having a child with you before, but it's not bad to be one now." Su Ming was still looking down at the black aura, but when he heard Charlotte Linlin's words, he shuddered and looked at Blackbeard with his mouth twitching. "Stop, I don't intend to be a part of this weird play of yours. I suggest you let go right now." When the androgynous Blackbeard grabbed his wrist, Su Ming felt goosebumps all over his body. The most important thing is that he even talks to himself in Charlotte Linlin's voice. Blackbeard had no such awareness at all. When she heard Su Ming asking her to let go, she thought he was scared and licked the corner of her mouth. "It's impossible to let go, Su Ming, give me, ah." Before Blackbeard could finish his words, a large amount of electric light suddenly burst out around Su Ming, enveloping himself and Blackbeard who was holding his hand. In the lightning, Blackbeard let out a shrill scream. The hand that was unwilling to let go just now was now pulling back desperately. However, at this moment, Su Ming's attitude changed. He firmly grasped Blackbeard's wrist and smiled at Blackbeard playfully. "Don't worry, I'll add some spice to your play, big generator." Lightning erupted again, and each streak of lightning was like a tiny silver snake, mixed with subtle but extremely pure haki. Each bolt of lightning caused great damage to Blackbeard. Gradually, the smell of barbecue wafted from Blackbeard. Realizing that he was almost 80% done, Blackbeard began to panic. "Let go, let go, let go," Blackbeard cried, trembling. Su Ming pretended not to hear clearly and scratched his ears. "What?" Kaido, who had already hidden aside, looked at Blackbeard who was screaming from the electric shock and swallowed. "This guy is still so scary. I was just thinking about reminding Su Ming to be careful, but now it seems that it was completely unnecessary." Kaido is now a little worried about Blackbeard. Was this guy electrocuted to death? The most important reason why Su Ming was able to suppress Blackbeard so easily was that his haki was too strong. Advertisement: his ultimate control over haki allowed him to completely fuse haki with the natural elements of the fruit. This means that every lightning bolt released by Su Ming can suppress the abilities of other devil fruits while causing horrific damage. Seeing that he would be cooked if he continued, Blackbeard's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. He gathered all his strength, grasped Napoleon in his hand, and swung it hard. Puff! Napoleon cut off the arm that was holding Su Ming's. Blood was spilled all over the ground. Blackbeard took the opportunity to escape from Su Ming's attack range. Only one arm was still held in Su Ming's hand. The dark aura wrapped around Su Ming's arm and body quickly dissipated under the destruction of the lightning without the source of its power. The lightning dissipated. Su Ming looked at the arm in his hand and shook it, then threw it aside like trash. Turning to look at the embarrassed Blackbeard, Su Ming raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Don't hold it anymore?" At this moment, Blackbeard no longer had the arrogance on his face, and his eyes were full of vigilance as he looked at Su Ming. Dark fruit, why doesn't it work on you?" Having devoured the soul fruit and fused with Charlotte Linlin's soul, the dark fruit has been developed to the ultimate level and is absolutely the nemesis of all fruits. Just now, when fighting with Kaido, Kaido never dared to use the elemental attack of the fruit from beginning to end. He can only use the form of his own animal fruit to strengthen his attack, and even then he has to cooperate with emission haki. However, Blackbeard himself can use the power of the fruit unscrupulously. This is Blackbeard's strongest weapon, and also the most difficult part. However, this method had no effect at all when used on Su Ming. Even the situation is reversed. Blackbeard clearly felt that wherever the terrifying electric current passed, the power of his dark fruit would uncontrollably avoid it, as if it had encountered some natural enemy. "I can hardly control myself." Su Ming shook his head and chuckled. "Blackbeard, your fruit ability has been developed very well. But this haki is a little disappointing. Your body is strange. It must have undergone special modifications that allow you to eat multiple devil fruits, but also make your haki purity very low. Even after devouring Charlotte Linlin, your haki has only barely reached the advanced level, but the amount of reserves is indeed amazing." Blackbeard's pupils shrank, and a hint of panic flashed in his eyes. Su Ming's words hit his soft spot. Su Ming keenly noticed the change in his expression, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "It seems I was right." Blackbeard was so angry that he shouted at Su Ming to cover up his panic. "So what, even without haki, Lousy can still be the strongest." As he spoke, the dark aura in his body and the power of the soul fruit surged out like crazy and soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, the dark aura completely covered the sky above Raftel, like a black cloud pressing down on the top of the head, suppressing it to the ultimate. It was as if the whole world had fallen into darkness. Kaido, who was standing aside, looked at the black aura in the sky with a complicated expression and took a deep breath. This guy didn't use his full strength just now. Blackbeard's strength has completely exceeded his imagination. Blackbeard jumped onto the fire cloud at some point and looked down at Su Ming with a wild smile on his face again. The powerful force allowed Blackbeard to regain his confidence. Ha 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 ha, see, this is my power. The fruit has been developed to its ultimate power. Su Ming, come on, try again. See if your proud hockey can break through Laozi's dark curtain. Su Ming ignored Blackbeard's provocation, raised his head slowly, looked at the black aura in the sky, and touched his chin. It's indeed much stronger, but... Su Ming shook his head and smiled contemptuously. A flash of lightning flashed in his eyes. Arcs of electricity appeared around Su Ming, and the lightning entangled together in midair. In an instant, they gathered into more than a dozen long spears behind Su Ming, floating in the air. Compared to Blackbeard's black fog, Su Ming's dozen spears seemed a little insignificant. Blackbeard looked at the lightning spear condensed by Su Ming with disdain on his face. Haha, Su Ming, you can't break Laozi's attack with just a few lightning spears. Su Ming glanced at Blackbeard with contempt, looked up at the sky, raised his hand, and snapped his fingers lightly. A crisp sound. Bang, bang, bang. A lightning gun behind Su Ming shot out suddenly, and it was as fast as ultimate speed, making 3 sonic booms in the air. The wind waves made Su Ming's marine cloak flutter continuously. The lightning gun turned into a ray of light and penetrated into the darkness. The next second, deafening thunder resounded through the heaven and earth. The lightning gun exploded in the darkness. A huge gap suddenly appeared in the darkness that blocked the sky. The sunlight shines through the gap and falls on Raftel again. The explosion of the first lightning spear was like a charge horn, and the remaining dozen lightning spears behind Su Ming shot out one after another and pierced into the darkness. Advertisement: the rumbling thunder enveloped the sky and the earth. The pirates on the Raftel covered their ears in pain, with obvious fear in their eyes. What kind of monster is this on the island? We had just landed on the island when the island shook, the sky was filled with black fog, and thunder rumbled. Is this really something I can participate in? Great secret treasures are good, but you have to be alive to spend them. The pirates on the island began to retreat. The darkness covering the sky quickly melted away like bubbles on the water. Su Ming did all this lightly, looked at Blackbeard again and smiled slightly. Blackbeard came back to his senses and found Su Ming looking at him. He was startled and stepped back unconsciously. One of them lost his balance and fell from the fire cloud, hitting the ground heavily. He ignored the pain and watched Su Ming walking towards him step by step, and crawled backwards. Wait, don't kill me, I can help you get the great secret treasure. He didn't expect Su Ming's strength to be so terrifying. After devouring Charlotte Linlin and countless lives, he was still powerless in front of Su Ming. Su Ming looked at Blackbeard and gave him a meaningful smile. Then he condensed another lightning spear, with the tip of the spear pointing directly at Blackbeard. Blackbeard was completely panicked. After seeing the power of the thunder gun, he no longer dared to underestimate it. Even with the dark fruit, this shot is enough to kill me. His body was shaking. Then Blackbeard thought of something, fell to his knees on the ground, and kowtowed to Su Ming. Master Su Ming, no, Godfather, it's all Charlotte Linlin's fault. She's manipulating me. Blackbeard racked his brains to come up with a lame excuse for what he had done before. I still have ambitions to fulfill, I can't die yet. He is clearly only one step away. If he just endures a little longer and finds a chance to devour a few more top warriors, he will surely be able to make a comeback. Before that, I have to survive at all costs, Blackbeard thought to himself. However, this time Su Ming did not joke with him like last time. The lightning gun behind him continued to accumulate energy. Cold sweat dripped down Blackbeard's chin to the ground, but he didn't dare to move at all. Su Ming smiled and said, Blackbeard, well, this title doesn't seem to suit you now. Blackbeard lowered his head, knelt on the ground and dared not look up. He curled his lips and said, Foster father. You can call me whatever you want. In order to survive, Blackbeard once again put aside his dignity. Su Ming has arrived in front of Blackbeard. Blackbeard, who was kneeling on the ground with his head lowered, could just see Su Ming's toes. The fear of death weighed upon him and almost crushed him. At this moment, his life and death depended on Su Ming's thoughts. Su Ming looked at Blackbeard, suddenly sighed, and shook his head in disappointment. Walked past Blackbeard. Blackbeard, kneeling on the ground, breathed a sigh of relief. There was a flash of resentment in his eyes, but it was suppressed again. However, puff, Blackbeard thought everything was fine, but suddenly he felt a pain in his chest. Blackbeard lowered his head and looked at his chest with an expression of disbelief on his face. A lightning spear pierced through his chest, and violent lightning quickly followed the wound and spread throughout his body. Su Ming's voice sounded in the distance. I think it's better for you to die here. Blackbeard felt his proud strength receding like a tide and screamed, No, I won't die like this. I'm not the king of the world yet. I can still. The lightning spear turned into the purest lightning and penetrated into Blackbeard's body. The surface of his skin was like broken porcelain, covered with cracks. Blackbeard raised his hand forward, as if trying to grab something. However, a piece of flesh suddenly fell off the cracked hand. But no blood flowed from the wound. Before the flesh and blood could even fall to the ground, it was turned into ashes by the lightning. Blackbeard's body began to collapse rapidly. Su Ming twitched the corner of his mouth. Didn't take Blackbeard's death too seriously. I arrived in time. Blackbeard hadn't devoured Kaido yet, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do it so easily. Looking towards the center of the island, the center where the golden light was spreading, Su Ming's eyes were deep. Suddenly, Su Ming's expression changed and he turned back to look at the distant sky. A stream of light streaked across the sky and headed straight for the center of the island. Chapter 312 The Truth of History, Ancient Civilization. Looking at the figure approaching rapidly in the sky, Su Ming's eyes focused, and he raised his hand and shot out a beam of lightning. Bang! There was an explosion. Lightning hit. Because of Su Ming's obstruction, the figure was unable to move closer to the center of the island and fell to the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. Garp, Zephyr and the others looked into the smoke with vigilance. Su Ming. Su Ming waved his hand, signaling everyone not to speak for the time being. A figure slowly walked out from the smoke and dust. It was I.M. Su Ming's attack failed to cause any harm to her. Yim glanced at Su Ming and said coldly, Su Ming. Su Ming smiled and teased. Lord Yimu, we meet again so soon. You are such a person that you have come to Raftel in person. If you have anything to ask, just tell me. I am still willing to serve you. Things have come to this point, and both of them have a tacit understanding. On this island, one of the two will inevitably fall. Yim snorted coldly, his expression still remaining cold. Get out of the way. Yim's tone was calm, yet it revealed an irresistible majesty. Su Ming raised his eyebrows slightly and spread his hands, looking helpless. I'm sorry, Lord Yimu, I'm sorry that I can't obey your order. After all, I came here to see if there is any way to kill you completely. So, Su Ming glanced at the center of the island. I will never let you go over there no matter what. Master Yimu, please don't embarrass me. At this point, the two of them completely fell out. Yim looked at the center of the island, frowned, and a trace of anxiety flashed across his eyes, but it disappeared in a moment and he looked at Su Ming again. Yimu said confidently, no one can stop me. Upon hearing this, Su Ming placed his hand on the hilt of the knife, bowed slightly, and his aura suddenly became unusually fierce. How will you know if you don't try? As soon as he finished speaking, the thunder sword at his waist suddenly came out of its sheath and instantly appeared in front of I.M. Haki was attached to the blade, and it swept across, leaving a blade light in the air, and headed straight for I.M.'s delicate neck. Garp and the others' pupils shrank when they saw the knife, and they took a deep breath. So fast, several people didn't even see when Su Ming drew his sword. Among the top strong people, there are many standards to measure each other's strength. But one of the most intuitive and important ones is whether you can see the other party's movements clearly. If you can't even capture each other's movements, it can only mean one thing. The gap between the two is too big. Once this happens, it is often a one-shot situation. Su Ming's knife just now gave the people present a feeling of being unable to resist. This kid has become so strong now. Garp's heart Chunin couldn't help but guess. If I were facing Su Ming's knife, would I be able to block it? The result of the inference is that he might not die, but he would definitely end up seriously injured. Thinking of this, Garp took another breath and said somewhat dejectedly, I'm getting old. Seeing that Su Ming's knife was about to hit, everyone's heart was in suspense. Is this guy, who is regarded as the biggest trouble by himself and others, going to die under Su Ming's knife? Advertisement, however, reality is always reality. Although Su Ming's strength is not weak, Yim is, after all, a monster who has lived for hundreds of years. If the strength was limited to this, the world government would have been overthrown countless times. Clang. The crisp sound of metal collision penetrated everyone's ears. Everyone couldn't help but look at Yim, only to see that at some point Yim had raised his wide sleeve of his left hand to block Su Ming's knife. What puzzled everyone was that, although it was cloth, it made a sound of metal collision when it collided with Su Ming's blade. Although Su Ming's attack was blocked by Yim, the aftermath was not eliminated. The terrifying slash swept across both sides of I.M. The sturdy trees in the dense forest behind him were cut in half by the aftermath. The cut surface is as smooth as a mirror. Su Ming curled his lips and smiled. It seems that Lord Yimu also came prepared. I saw I.M.'s loose sleeves slowly slipping down. Inside the sleeves, the slender white arm held a long sword in the backhand. It was this long sword that blocked Su Ming's sword. Yim did not respond to Su Ming's teasing. She shook her wrist and a force that was completely inconsistent with her slender arms burst out. Su Ming was thrown backwards. Before it landed, I.M. followed with another slash. Even Su Ming couldn't help but feel a little frightened when he saw Yim's slash. Supreme swordsman, Su Ming was secretly surprised. This guy is very good at hiding. He usually doesn't even carry a knife with him, but when he strikes, he's like an unrivaled swordsman. You, the guy who always pretends to be cool, turns out to be a loser. Su Ming complained in his heart, but he didn't dare to slow down and swung out a slash. The two slashes collided with each other, immediately creating a gust of air. Clouds rolled over the two of them, and the sky seemed to be splitting apart. Su Ming landed on the ground, and his feet plowed two long grooves on the ground. Although it may seem like the fight between the two just now lasted a long time, in reality it was just a blink of an eye. In the eyes of everyone in Garp, they only saw Su Ming instantly appear in front of Yim and slash with his sword, but it was blocked. Then Im fought back, and the two fought evenly. All this happened in a flash. The celestial dragon's swordsmanship is so powerful. As a fellow swordsman, Guillaume couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. She knew that Su Ming's swordsmanship was very strong, but she didn't expect that Yim's swordsmanship was not weaker than Su Ming's at all. After all, he is the actual controller of celestial dragons, his strength is. Garp frowned and began to worry about Su Ming. This brat is okay. Zephyr saw Garp's worry and walked over to pat Garp on the shoulder. Don't worry, we watched that kid grow up, we should have confidence in him. Besides, this kind of battle is no longer something that old guys like us can participate in. We have our own enemies, too, Zephyr said, turning to look towards the dense forest. Two figures walked out of the dense forest. They were the remaining 2 5 elders. Garp perked up again. That's right. Our mission is to stop these 2 old guys. Garp took a step forward, his entire body covered with top-level hockey, and pointed at one of the 5 elders. Leave this old guy to me, and the remaining one to you. Zephyr pressed a few buttons on his robotic arm without hesitation, and the bulky robotic arm fell off to the ground, revealing an intact arm. Advertisement, haha, Garp, this scene is a bit like when we were young and went to sea. Garp clenched his fists. Ah, yes. So it's not too late to do some of the things you wanted to do when you were young, right? Shave, fist bones, conflict. Garp and his men fought against the 5 elders. After Su Ming and Yi Mu exchanged swords, neither of them rushed to attack. Su Ming shook his numb arms and looked at Yim, as if he wanted to get to know him again. I didn't expect that Lord Yimu's swordsmanship is so strong. He is truly a supreme swordsman. Even Su Ming is currently at this level. Before this, Su Ming knew that the only people who were at the same level were the bald 5 elders, Hawkeye, and the ancient Saint Green of the Knights of God. Yim raised his hand, the tip of the sword pointed directly at Su Ming. I was bored, so I spent a few decades researching it. Su Ming, I have to admit that among all the people who have rebelled against me in the past few hundred years, you are the most unexpected one. You are an interesting person. If you hadn't collected the historical texts, I would have kept you until the next era. After all, immortality is a rather boring thing. Su Ming sneered. Lord Yimu really flatters me. But aren't you afraid that the 5 elders will get jealous if you say that? Yim. The smile on Su Ming's face gradually faded, and he inserted the blade into the sheath again, and his expression became serious. Imu, even though you are the king of celestial dragons, you are essentially no different from those celestial dragons. Celestial dragons treat other races as slaves, and you are taking the whole world as your slave. The arrogance left over from the previous civilization has not been corrected even now. Su Ming looked at Yim with a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. When Im, whose expression had remained unchanged until now, heard the words, previous civilization, his face finally showed a ripple. You really do know. Su Ming smiled faintly, I guessed it. Even if it is the historical text, the information recorded on it is not complete. Or rather, the D-Clan didn't discover your true origins at the beginning. Right, remnants of the last civilization. Your civilization once existed on this planet, but later on you migrated for some reason. Su Ming pointed to the moon in the sky. That is the planet where you, the survivors, are. 800 years ago, you returned here again. We have seized this world from the new civilization. I am right, Lord Yim. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet. Suddenly, Yim held his forehead and smiled. Ha ha ha, Su Ming, you are very smart. I never thought that you could figure out our origins based on just a little information in the historical text. You are really interesting. I really don't want to kill you. But it's more reassuring if you die. Yim's body began to expand rapidly, raising a large amount of smoke and dust. A huge creature slowly crawled out from the smoke. Chapter 313 Dragon Fruit. A huge figure slowly emerged from the smoke and dust. Su Ming clenched the knife in his hand and frowned slightly. A feeling of depression came over me. Suddenly, a giant claw suddenly stretched out from the smoke and slapped towards Su Ming. Thunderstep. Su Ming's body turned into a ray of lightning and flew into the air. Almost at the moment Su Ming left, the giant claw slammed the ground hard. With a loud bang, the ground shook violently. Garp and the others glanced in the direction where the sound came from, and their pupils shrank when they saw the huge claws. As that Im. The smoke had not yet completely dissipated, and everyone could not see clearly what Im looked like after his transformation in the smoke. However, just from the outstretched claws, one can feel the pressure from the giant. In midair, Su Ming looked at the claws of Im after his transformation. From the appearance, they looked like the forelimbs of some reptile like a lizard. The limbs are strong and powerful, with sharp claws on the fingertips. Its surface is also covered with a layer of scales that exude a metallic luster. The defensive power is self-evident. This is a monitor lizard? An idea popped into Su Ming's mind, but he quickly shook his head to deny it. Although this claw is very similar to that of a monitor lizard, it is impossible for Im to eat such an ordinary zone fruit. Su Ming dodged the attack, a gleam in his eyes, and when the time was right he swung his knife. The azure blue slash flew out and landed on the beast's claw. Clang. The blow that could easily cut through steel only produced a burst of sparks when it hit the beast's claws. It only left a faint white mark on the beast's claws and did nothing else. This defense. Su Ming was amazed. Although the previous slash was made in a hurry, he only used less than half of his strength. But it shouldn't just leave a shallow white mark on the scales, that would be too exaggerated. Su Ming rolled over and landed on the ground, putting some distance between himself and Yim. The stirred-up smoke and dust began to dissipate slowly. Roar. A roar sounded from the smoke and dust, creating waves of sound. The sound enveloped the entire raftel and spread to the sea surface. The seawater trembled and rippled. Advertisement. At the same time, a strong wind burst out from the smoke and dust. The smoke and dust were blown away. Everyone finally saw clearly what the monster that I am had transformed into looked like in the smoke and dust. Is this a dragon? Su Ming was stunned. A giant dragon, 100 meters tall, with strong limbs and a pair of fleshy wings on its back, appeared in front of everyone. The wind pressure just now was caused by the giant dragon flapping its wings behind it. The giant dragon looked down at Su Ming, with undisguised contempt in his eyes. It seemed as if Su Ming was an ant that could be crushed under his feet at any time. Haha, Lord Yimu is invincible. You traitors to the world government have no idea what a stupid decision you made. One of the 5 elders taunted as he fought Garp. Garp frowned and said nothing, but his hands' movements were a little messy. I am, who turned into a giant dragon, raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and a stream of smoke came out of his nostrils, mixed with faint flames. She suddenly raised her head, and a ball of light rose in her neck and rolled up to her mouth. Roar. With a roar, scorching flames burst out from the dragon's mouth. The flames spread out like an overwhelming force. Su Ming frowned as he looked at the flames all over the sky. Although this flame still looks red in color, it is many times stronger than Ace's flame. Before he even got close, Su Ming already felt the air around him becoming scorching hot and breathing becoming difficult. A layer of fog rose visibly from the sea surface around Raftel. You can't just take it hard. Su Ming was about to dodge Yim's attack again. There was a look of sneer on Yim's face, and he flapped his wings behind him violently. A strong wind enveloped Su Ming, completely blocking his retreat. At the same time, the scorching flames became even more powerful under the strong wind, forming a fire tornado that shot up into the sky. Su Ming's figure was engulfed in flames. Su Ming. You little brat. Garp and others who were fighting the 5 elders shouted anxiously. Ha ha ha, see, this is Lord Yimu's true strength. If the time hadn't come, do you think you could fight Lord Yimu? Seeing Su Ming being engulfed in flames, the expressions on the faces of the 2 5 elders became more and more frenzied, as if they had already seen their side's victory. Everyone in Garp was worried about Su Ming's safety, and they lost their composure when facing the 5 elders and fell into a disadvantage. The giant dragon I am stared at the center of the fire with his vertical pupils, but did not relax his vigilance. Suddenly, a blue energy blade stabbed out from the flames. Advertisement. The blade was swung against the wind, and the fire tornado that was rising into the sky subsided, and the scorching flames dissipated. A giant figure gradually emerged from the flames. The azure blue skeleton enveloped Su Ming. The flames did not hurt him at all. B*********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** covered with mist. Khalifa and Guillaume also breathed a sigh of relief. The flames that shot up into the sky just now really scared the two of them. Su Ming looked up at Yim and gave a playful smile. Lord Yimu, you are really cruel. As soon as the words fell, Susanoo, who was wrapped in Su Ming, placed the long sword in her hand on the ground. Susanoo, who originally had only half of her body, suddenly grew taller. With the infusion of energy, the body is no longer a skeleton, but rapidly grows flesh and blood. At the same time, his body was covered with a layer of armor, and his size exceeded 100 meters. The giant pointed his sword to the sky, and thunderclouds suddenly rose in the sky. Lightning as thick as buckets shuttled through the clouds, and the dark thunderclouds seemed to be pressing down on everyone's heads. It looked like a sign of the coming doomsday. The next second, a purple-black lightning fell and landed squarely on the giant's sword. The 100-meter-tall giant was bathed in thunder, dazzling and brilliant, like the god of thunder descending to the earth. The huge amount of energy caused Susanoo's body to grow again, and the tight armor originally attached to her body was actually cracked. Thunder kept falling from the sky, and the armor on his body could not bear the weight, making crackling sounds, like the wailing of a giant. Finally, as the last bolt of lightning fell, the giant's armor was completely shattered. The Susanoo, who was originally a little illusory, became completely solid, and its image changed drastically. A giant with a green body, naked upper body and well-proportioned muscles stood in the air. The irregular thunder behind him formed several thunder drums. Su Ming floated at the position of the mark between the giant's eyebrows and completely merged with the giant. The giant raised the hand holding the long sword. I am transformed into a giant dragon and flapped his wings, creating a hurricane. The huge body, which was 100 meters tall, actually flew up and confronted Su Ming's giant in the air. Su Ming didn't waste any words and controlled the giant to cut it down with a knife. Heaven and earth divide disaster. A slash that spanned the sky and the earth was suddenly swung out, making the entire world pale in comparison. This knife seemed to divide everything in heaven and earth again. The first to bear the brunt was the giant dragon transformed by I Am. Chapter 314 Changes above Raftel. The battle between Su Ming and Yim continued. Flames and thunder continued to collide. Although the two tacitly used the sky as the main battlefield, the aftermath of the attack still destroyed Raftel beyond recognition. The pirates who came for the treasure trembled in fear in the aftermath. Is this really a power that a human can possess? Monsters. They are all monsters. Although the pirates on the sea knew that there was a certain gap between themselves and the top powerhouses, they never thought the gap would be so big. I am still developing the ability of the fruit, trying to see how I can expand the attack range and make the attack power stronger. The top experts have already used Ex Machina. Facing the aftermath of the attack, the pirates on the island approached the center of the island with trepidation. In midair, Su Ming used his sword again to force back the giant dragon transformed by Yimu. The slash mixed with top-notch hockey and lightning left a huge wound on Im's body. Compared to just now, Im looked a little embarrassed at this moment. Between the giant's eyebrows, Su Ming hugged his shoulders and teased. Lord Yimu, it seems that you are going to lose this battle. Although the Susanoo used by Su Ming was smaller than the giant dragon transformed by Im, its power was far greater than that of Im. To be precise, it is not accurate to call this move Susanoo after Su Ming improved it. When Su Ming was training with Vegapunk on the Science Island, he had an idea in his mind. The Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan is able to activate the complete form of Susanoo. When dealing with ordinary opponents, it can be said that he is always successful. For strong opponents like Admiral or Four Emperors, as long as this Gundam is turned on, the opponent will basically surrender. But if it's against Im, it's a different story. This guy who has ruled the world for nearly 1,000 years must have some unknown cards. It is obviously unrealistic to deal with her with the standards used to deal with Admiral. Su Ming vaguely remembered that Susanoo had another form above its complete form. The second pillar of a certain village poured the power of several tailed beasts into his body to gain even more powerful strength. There is no need to think about the tailed beasts themselves. There are no tailed beasts in the Pirates King's world, and he can't just grab the Sea Kings and force them in. It does nothing except make you smell like fish. There is still a fundamental difference between Sea Kings and tailed beasts. But he is not without any solution. Whether it's a tailed beast or something else, it's just energy in the final analysis. He doesn't have a tailed beast, but he has the Thunder God fruit. After several attempts, Su Ming finally succeeded in developing this move that surpassed the complete form of Susanoo. Advertisement. I don't know if it's because of the ability of the Thunder God fruit, but after breaking open Susanoo's shell, its image is more like the Eastern Thunder God in my memory. The two fought for hundreds of moves, with each winning and losing, but in the end Su Ming had the upper hand. It was only a matter of time before Im was defeated. In midair, Yim flapped his wings behind him, stared at Su Ming with a pair of vertical pupils, and a ball of fire came out of his mouth. Su Ming raised his hand and summoned a bolt of lightning to stop it, thinking secretly in his heart. This guy is hiding his strength. Why hasn't he used his full strength yet? Since Im can transform into a giant dragon, he should also have a human beast form. The Zone Devil Fruit's human animal form is the strongest. Su Ming shook his head and discarded his messy guesses. Looking at Im, who was completely at a disadvantage, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. It doesn't matter why this guy didn't use his full strength. Kill her and all problems will be solved. Su Ming thought about it and raised the knife in his hand again. Thunder gathered on the blade, and the flickering lightning seemed like the power of heaven. The giant dragon Im narrowed his eyes, revealing a rare hint of anxiety. Boom boom. Just then, Raftel shook again. Su Ming frowned. The noise came from the center of the island where Luffy and his group were. A look of joy appeared on Yim's face. He immediately stopped caring about Su Ming, flapped his wings behind him, and dived downwards. Su Ming had been keeping an eye on Yimu, so naturally, it was impossible for her to escape easily. He controlled the giant to hold the knife in both hands and chopped it down at Im. The knife light turned into a bolt of lightning and landed behind Im. Roar. Blood splattered in the air. One of the fleshy wings on Im's back was cut off. Im lost his balance in midair and fell heavily to the ground. One blow seriously injured. However, facing such injuries, Im didn't even turn his head. You two losers, stop Su Ming at all costs. Yim yelled at the two Five Elders. Advertisement. The Five Elders, who were struggling with Garp and others, looked embarrassed. But after seeing Yim's eyes, the two didn't dare to say a word. They faced the attacks from Garp and others and stood between Su Ming and Yim even if they got hurt. Stop them. Garp uses Moonwalk to try to catch up with the Five Elders. Fistbone clash. Get out of my way. One of the Five Elders transformed into a terrifying bird with wings as sharp as blades. It flapped its wing at Garp, tearing his upper body into strips and leaving dozens of bloody marks on his body. Another Five Elders turned into a ghost-like monster in the blink of an eye, his body flickering constantly. He passed through the attacks of Gion, Zephyr and the others without dodging or evading, as if he had no entity. The two of them stood in front of Su Ming regardless of everything. In midair, Su Ming noticed that Yimu, who had originally transformed into a dragon, turned into a human again, like a little girl, but still had the dragon horns of the evil dragon on his head. The moment she appeared in this form, Su Ming sensed a strange feeling, as if some thought was stirring in her heart, but was quickly suppressed. Before he could think too much, two Five Elders came in front of him. Su Ming dispersed Susanoo in the form of Thunder God and frowned as he looked at the Five Elders rushing towards him. Su Ming, don't even think about getting in the way of Lord Yim. Your enemy is us. The two Five Elders shouted loudly, as if they were very loyal to Yim. Su Ming rolled his eyes inwardly. The reason why the two of them were determined to stop me at all costs was not out of loyalty. The two of them had eaten the essence of the devil fruit that I had tampered with, and if they disobeyed Im's orders, their fate would be worse than death. Without this restraint, the two ambitious guys were the first to stab Im with the knife. Looking at Yim, who was already heading towards the center of the island, Su Ming had a bad feeling in his heart. Faced with the 5 elders who wanted to trip him up, Su Ming completely lost his patience. Get out of here! He swung the thunder sword in his hand, and the lightning transformed into 24 long swords of different shapes, trapping the 5 elders inside. These 2 guys were very difficult to deal with. It would definitely take a lot of time to kill them, but Su Ming thought it would be no problem to just trap them. Garp and his group rushed over. Leave it to us. Su Ming nodded and was about to chase Yim. A sword energy flew past his face. Su Ming, you can't leave yet. You need to give me an explanation for the matter of ancient St. Green. At some point, Shanks boarded the raftel with his crew. Chapter 315. Standpoint. Awakening. Su Ming was stopped by the sudden attack. He frowned and turned to look in the direction of the attack. Shanks. The red-haired Shanks from 4 Emperors also came to raftel at some point and stood not far away with his crew, holding the western longsword of the ancient St. Grim in his hand, and was glaring at him. Su Ming, we still have accounts to settle, Shanks said with hatred in his tone. Su Ming was confused. Did you take the wrong medicine? Although Shanks and I didn't have much contact, we were still partners before. Suddenly, Su Ming noticed Shanks' arm, and a flash of understanding appeared in his eyes. The old man from Celestial Dragons and you. Shanks' eyes remained unchanged. He is my father. Su Ming. 6. Shanks frowned. What did you say? Su Ming shook his head. Nothing, I just feel a little bit sad about the Celestial Dragon's parenting style. Shanks ignored Su Ming's jokes, pointed his sword at Su Ming and said coldly, the ancient St. Green is dead. I have to settle this account with you, both emotionally and logically. Su Ming curled his lips when he heard this. So you want to kill me to avenge that old man? Shanks said nothing, but stepped on the ground, which cracked instantly. He shot out and rushed straight towards Su Ming. Flying closer, Shanks's breath was firmly locked on Su Ming. Clang. Lei Si left his body, and the 2 men's weapons collided. Conquerors began to repel each other from a distance. Black lightning burst out. While blocking Shanks' attack, Su Ming commented, not bad, your strength has improved a lot. But it's still not enough to stop me. In the past, Su Ming might have fought Shanks for a few moves. But not now. Must have something very important to tell him as he rushed to the center of the island at all costs. Although he didn't know what she was going to do, it would definitely not be a good thing for him, so Su Ming had to stop her. Thinking of this, Su Ming no longer held back. The speed of swinging the long sword continued to increase. In the end, Shanks, who had been attacking fiercely, could only defend himself. Even so, Su Ming's speed continued to increase. Shanks gritted his teeth and struggled to resist the almost continuous slashing. He felt like a small boat in a storm, which could be submerged in the wind and waves and buried at any time. How can this guy be so fast and yet each of his strikes are so powerful? Advertisement. Shanks was thinking when Su Ming's voice suddenly sounded beside him. You dare to be distracted when fighting with me? Shanks' pupils shrank. He didn't know when Su Ming had come to his side, leaving him completely defenseless. Without waiting for a reaction, Su Ming raised his foot and kicked him hard in the waist. With a crackling sound of bones breaking, Shanks crashed directly into the broken city wall like a cannonball. The weathered city wall collapsed and Shanks was buried in the masonry. Su Ming curled his lips. Why are you joining in the fun when you haven't decided on your position? You wasted your time. I'll settle the score with you later. After all, Shanks was Luffy's guide, so it was difficult for Su Ming to kill him. Of course, the more important thing is that although this guy sounds fierce, he actually has no intention of killing. From the fight just now, Su Ming could only see confusion and struggle in his eyes. Su Ming was about to put away his knife and catch up with Yim when Shanks, who was buried under the bricks and stones, stood up again. Shanks was breathing heavily, his clothes were covered with dust, and he looked a little disheveled, but he still pointed at Su Ming and said, our work is not over yet, don't even think about running away like this. Su Ming frowned. This guy is a bit ungrateful. I had already let him go for Luffy's sake, but he still kept pestering me. Su Ming's eyes flashed with anger. Shanks, I'm only telling you once, get out of the way immediately and don't get in my way, or I won't hold back. Shanks wiped the bloodline from the corner of his mouth and gave Su Ming a forced smile. He didn't say anything, but his aura was still firmly locked on Su Ming, which also expressed his attitude. Su Ming showed a cold expression on his face, then don't blame me. A layer of blade light appeared on the blade of the Lei Si sword, which was a sign that Su Ming was using all his strength. I don't want to kill him, but I don't have time to continue to get entangled with him. Su Ming has never been an indecisive person. When it is time to cut off, cut off. Shanks seemed to know Su Ming's decision, and a wry smile appeared on his lips, with a hint of relief in his eyes. Ah! Suddenly, a painful scream was heard from the center of the royal city. Raftel shook violently, as if something was about to break out of the ground. Su Ming stopped what he was doing and turned back suddenly. He was very familiar with this voice, it was Luffy. Shanks, who was about to accept his fate, was also stunned. 2 seconds later, Shanks' eyes turned red and he looked hatefully at the 5 elders trapped in the sword formation. 5 elders. Yim. You don't keep your word. The two five elders who were trapped in the sword formation by Su Ming had ecstatic looks on their faces. Ha ha ha, Shanks, who do you think you are to negotiate with us? And you, Su Ming, haha, Lord Yimu succeeded, and in the end we still won, we. Before five elders could finish his words, the two suddenly opened their eyes wide with painful expressions. Advertisement, no, Lord Yim, no, we are still useful to you. Please don't. Before the two five elders could finish their words, their bodies rapidly swelled and twisted. Immediately afterwards, two monsters that were 90% similar to the two men when they transformed appeared in front of everyone. Su Ming's pupils shrank. He was very familiar with the aura of these two monsters. The research results that Vegapunk previously demonstrated using devil fruit also had this kind of atmosphere. The difference is that after these two monsters appeared, they did not remain motionless like the monster that Vegapunk had previously researched. These two monsters are obviously conscious. Cut. Su Ming tried to manipulate the sword formation to kill the two monsters. The strength of the two monsters seemed to have not fully recovered yet. They were not very strong and were much weaker than the five elders. But no matter how Su Ming attacked, whether cutting them in half or chopping them into minced meat, these two monsters would keep regenerating. Immortality. Su Ming frowned. This ability is the most difficult. He also discovered that the aura of the two monsters that he had beaten into pieces not only did not weaken, but became stronger as time went by. It seems to be recovering. If this continues, not only will I not be able to deal with I might even be held back by these two monsters. Thinking of this, a faint blue light appeared in Su Ming's eyes, and the things in the world in his eyes appeared in lines and intersections. Death perception eye. He aimed another knife at the monster that he had chopped into pieces. The chopping strokes passed through the minced meat along the silk line and at the dead center. The pieces of meat that were originally expanding suddenly came quietly. Ah, ah, the squirming piece of flesh let out a shrill scream. Then it slowly dissipated like smoke. Seeing this, Su Ming finally determined what these two monsters were. The reason why these two monsters cannot be killed is that the physical body is completely unnecessary to them. This is the devil that resides in the devil fruit. Turning his head to look at Shanks who was standing there mumbling to himself, Su Ming said, "Stop chanting, Shanks, tell me everything you know. Stop playing tricks." Su Ming could see that Shanks knew a lot of things, but he was not completely on the side of celestial dragons. Things were getting increasingly out of control, and Su Ming didn't intend to waste time on the road. Without waiting for Shanks to speak, he grabbed him by the back of the neck and rushed to the center of the island. Shanks came back to his senses and lowered his head in regret. "I'm sorry, I got scammed. Take everyone and run away quickly. Yimu has awakened the devil fruit tree. No one can match her." Luffy. Maybe something has happened. I failed Captain Roger's expectations. Chapter 316. The former civilization, choice, what did you say? Su Ming was stunned for 2 seconds, then he reacted. He reached out and grabbed Shanks by the collar and questioned angrily. Shanks no longer had the momentum he had before. He lowered his head, not daring to look Su Ming in the eye. The Nika fruit is the most special fruit on the devil fruit tree. The devil fruit tree will not wake up until this fruit returns to the devil fruit tree. Now. Advertisement, waste. Su Ming threw Shanks to the ground. Ahem. Shanks fell to the ground and started coughing violently. He struggled to sit up but didn't stand up again. He lowered his head with a decadent look. Su Ming looked at Shanks like this, anger rising in his heart, and turned to look towards the center of the island. Looking at the direction of the vibration, Su Ming took 2 deep breaths and glared at Shanks again. Tell me clearly what is going on and what you are hiding. Shanks still had his head down, sitting on the ground and seemed to have given up completely. As you guessed before, celestial dragons are actually a race left over from the last civilization. They originally lived on this planet. The celestial dragons were once a civilization that developed technology to the ultimate level. The human body, cells, genes, cloning, all technologies have almost reached the ultimate level. Although it didn't make everyone live a rich life, it did save most people from hunger. For people at that time, this was a good life. People at that time also firmly believed that life would get better and better with the development of technology. Until they discovered eternal life. As he spoke, Shanks turned his head and looked towards the center of the island with a sarcastic smile on his face. Su Ming frowned slightly. Eternal life. Yes, eternal life. Shanks nodded and smiled self-deprecatingly. What a beautiful word it sounds like. Who could have imagined that the moment they developed immortality, destruction would also begin? After the success of the research on immortality, there is no longer a limit on lifespan, and the celestial dragon's upper class has been completely solidified. The world's wealth and resources continue to flow into the hands of the top celestial dragons. People at the bottom are being oppressed, and their living space is getting smaller and smaller. What's even more terrifying is that because technology has developed to the ultimate level, the weapons in the hands of the upper echelons make it impossible for the lower echelons to even resist. Any resistance would be easily suppressed. This situation continued for nearly 100 years. Advertisement, until there is nothing left for the people at the bottom to exploit. They are born into debt, and every low-level person is just a slave tool, or even a part that can be replaced at any time by the top celestial dragons. Everything that the lower-class people have belongs to the top celestial dragons from the moment they are born, including everything they produce. The power and wealth held by each of the top celestial dragons has reached an unprecedented level. After decades of peace, with nothing left to exploit, the celestial dragons at the top turned their guns on each other. The war started. The world was quickly engulfed in flames by the use of cutting-edge weapons. The continent began to sink. By the time everyone reacted, the world had already been destroyed beyond recognition. Finally, some of the immortal celestial dragons that survived the war decided to migrate to other planets. And at the same time, a non-aggression pact was signed. Su Ming sneered. I guess the war has broken out again. Shanks nodded. Yes, human greed knows no bounds. After escaping the pain of war, celestial dragons soon faced the same situation again. The war began, and the celestial dragons faced their second mass extinction. It was also during that battle that only 20 families of celestial dragons remained. At the same time, celestial dragons discovered that the planet they had left for thousands of years was resurrected again. Su Ming smiled disdainfully. If celestial dragons follow their usual pattern, there should be a third extinction. Shanks laughs wryly. His face was full of sarcasm towards this race full of bad qualities. Yes, if nothing unexpected happens, the celestial dragons who have mastered the technology of immortality will inevitably face the third population extinction. But, after returning to this planet, one person emerged from the original 20 families. When the celestial dragons were cleansing the natives and preparing to unify the world again, this celestial dragon stood on the side of the natives and killed all the immortal celestial dragons before the other celestial dragons could react. And at the same time completely dominated the world with tyrannical force. This person is Yim. Shanks told what he knew about the history of celestial dragons. After listening to the history of celestial dragons, Su Ming couldn't help but take a deep breath. It's hard to imagine how powerful the celestial dragons were in their heyday. Immortality, and immortality without any side effects, is perfectly mastered by celestial dragons. This can be said to be close to divine power. However, such a powerful race was wiped out without any invasion from foreign enemies. How ironic. Su Ming shook his head and looked at Shanks and continued to ask. What about the devil fruit tree? Advertisement, is this also the technological achievement of celestial dragons? Shanks pulled himself up and shook his head. The origin of the devil fruit tree is very strange. Even the celestial dragons don't have detailed records of it. All I know is that every time the devil fruit tree appears, Im's strength will skyrocket. Her devil fruit is not as simple as it seems. After the devil fruit tree appears, there is another necessary condition for it to wake up, which is to let the Nika fruit return. And there is only one way for the fruit to be separated from the host, and that is death. So I said Luffy. Shanks didn't continue, but his meaning was clear. That's all I know. I'm sorry to Luffy and Captain Roger. Su Ming looked at Shanks's distraught look, frowned again, and a bit of disgust appeared in his eyes. If you're going to just stay here and feel sorry for yourself, you can get out now. Shanks raised his head and stared at Su Ming in disbelief with wide eyes. I have made it very clear that I am simply unable to compete now. Su Ming, I didn't lie to you. The devil fruit tree has awakened. No one can match Yimu now. You should have seen it just now. Those 5 elders, was just a thought. Suddenly, Shanks caught Su Ming's gaze and swallowed back the words on his lips. Su Ming looked towards the center of Raftel with a determined look, took off the thunder gift from his waist and held it in his hand. A light blue lightning mark between his eyebrows emitted a faint light. The originally black pupils were covered with a milky white light. Behind his head, lightning bolts formed a lightning ring like a flaming cloud in midair. Su Ming was like the god of thunder, full of majesty. He turned his head and glanced at Shanks, who was sitting on the ground. The pair of pure white pupils made Shanks shudder all over. Under the gaze of these eyes, Shanks felt as if he had no secrets at all. Su Ming didn't say anything, just took a look and then looked away. He stepped on the tiptoes, turned into a flash of lightning, disappeared into the clouds, and headed straight for the center of the island. Shanks stared blankly at the direction where Su Ming left, his expression changing again and again. Conflict, regret, and finally determination. He struggled to stand up and looked at the western longsword passed down to him by the ancient Saint Green. I'm sorry, but I still can't accept myself as a celestial dragon. He stuck his sword into the ground, tightened his own sword, the griffin, at his waist, and headed toward the center of the island. Chapter 317 Devil Fruit Tree Raftel, the center of the royal city. A dazzling golden light emanated from the ruins of the palace. Inside the hall, on both sides of the throne, countless gold coins and jewels were piled up into small hills. Just grabbing a handful of it is a wealth that is beyond the reach of ordinary people. Many pirates rushed into the hall, but faced with countless wealth, they did not dare to take a step forward. Everyone's eyes were looking in the same direction. Behind the throne in the main hall, an unusually thick tree stood tall in the hall, breaking through the floor tiles. The trunk is so thick that it takes more than a dozen adults to hug it. The most shocking thing is that this tree actually bears all kinds of devil fruit. Yim stood under the tree, stretched out his hand, gently stroked the thick trunk, with an inexplicable smile on his lips. Beside her, a dozen or so terrifying monsters squatted on the ground, looking greedily at the pirates outside. Hey, although there were some twists and turns, but I still won. This world is destined to have only one king. In the next era, why not change your identity? Pirates? Revolutionary army? Thinking about it, Yim suddenly thought of Su Ming and smiled at himself. Maybe Marine is also a good choice. You be **************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** A cry-like roar interrupted Im's thoughts. Yim turned his head and looked in the direction where the sound came from. The Straw Hat guys looked miserable and covered in wounds. The 3 famous swords in Zoro's hand were all broken. Sanji's left leg was broken at an exaggerated angle, and he collapsed to the ground, his clothes soaked with cold sweat. The 2 main forces of the Straw Hat pirates have been defeated. They didn't even have the power to resist Yim. Usopp, Robin and others who are the second-line fighting force have to stand up at this moment. Even though the enemy in front of them was extremely powerful and several of them were shaking, they still stood up without hesitation. There was a look of contempt in Yim's eyes. Ants. While I am in a good mood, run away quickly. It's better to live a little longer, even though it's useless. I will not leave so many problems behind during this purge like last time. I will completely erase everything related to the past. As he spoke, Im waved his right hand towards a branch of the devil fruit tree. The branches of the devil fruit tree seemed to have life, stretching out in front of Im. A crack appeared on the trunk, forming a tree hole. Luffy's face appeared in the tree hole. Luffy! The Straw Hat pirates shouted loudly, trying to wake Luffy up. Advertisement, however, Luffy in the tree hole had his eyes closed and showed no signs of waking up. Im looked at the Straw Hat guys with a teasing smile. Don't waste your energy, he has now assimilated into the devil fruit tree. The Nika fruit, the embodiment of that guy's will, the only fruit that doesn't have a demon in it, was finally captured by me. As for your companion, he is actually dead now. Nami Robin covered her mouth, tears welling up in her eyes, obviously unable to accept this fact. Im seemed to enjoy the desperate expressions of the Straw Hat people, and a slight curve appeared at the corner of his mouth. Suddenly, her face changed and she raised her head sharply and looked up at the sky. Boom! A bolt of lightning struck down, heading straight for Im. Snort! Yimu snorted coldly. With a flick of his hand, a strange energy collided with the thunder. The aftermath stirred up a large amount of rubble. After a loud bang, the thunder dissipated into nothingness. The smoke and dust cleared, and Su Ming landed in front of the Straw Hat people, looking at the so-called devil fruit tree with his pure white eyes. Su Ming, you're finally here. Seeing Su Ming, Yim laughed. If you don't come, I will be unable to help but take the initiative to find you. Su Ming's mouth twitched. Yim is very beautiful, but Su Ming has no interest in her at all. This woman is a lunatic. For nearly 1,000 years, everyone has been treated as livestock and played with in the palm of their hands. When Su Ming saw Luffy surrounded by trees behind Im, he frowned. His observation haki could sense that Luffy's life force was already very weak. Su Ming's eyes focused, and the thunder in his hand was unsheathed with a clang. The blue electric arc wrapped around the blade added another layer of sharpness to the blade. The ground under Su Ming's feet cracked, and he rushed towards Yim, slashing his knife diagonally. On the surface, this knife was aimed at Im, but in fact Su Ming wanted to rescue Luffy first. However, the thunder in Su Ming's hand stopped 1 meter in front of Yim. The power poured into the blade was like a drop in the ocean, without any movement at all. Su Ming tried to increase his strength, and even infused the power of the fruit and haki into the sword. Lei Si seemed to be dead and could no longer survive. Haha, Su Ming, how about it, are you surprised? You are very talented and powerful, but you don't think you can catch up with me in just a dozen years. See? This is my real power. Yim raised his head and laughed out loud, as if mocking Su Ming's arrogance. You want to kill me, don't you? Come on, try and see if you can do it. Advertisement. Yim walked down the platform step by step and approached Su Ming. Su Ming frowned. He felt that there was an invisible force field around Yim, blocking his attacks firmly. Su Ming clenched the hilt of the knife, and the green lightning on the blade became more and more dazzling. Seeing this, Im's lips curled up into a playful smile. With every step she took, the blade of the Lei Si blade bent a little more. All the way to Su Ming. Su Ming's feet were already planted in the ground, veins on his arms were bulging, and a trace of bloodline flowed from the corner of his mouth. The blade of the Lei Si blade was bent almost 180 degrees, and it kept making a buzzing sound, like a painful whine. Unlike Su Ming, Yim was very relaxed. She looked Su Ming up and down. After seeing that he didn't take a single step back even with his leg stuck in the ground, a satisfied smile appeared in his eyes. Not bad, you can actually hold on for this long. But I don't like it. Im, who had a smile on his face the previous second, suddenly changed his expression. Her aura suddenly increased several times. Puff. Su Ming, who had been able to hold on, spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards. The powerful reaction force allowed Su Ming to smash through the palace wall. Su Ming barely managed to stop after crashing into countless buildings. However, just as Su Ming stood up, a figure came in front of him. Su Ming only heard a sound of breaking air, and his body was entangled by a powerful force and pulled into the air. Looking down, I saw a dark green vine tied me up tightly. Su Ming tried to break free. The toughness of the dark green vines was far beyond Su Ming's imagination. Yim looked at Su Ming's struggle, covered his mouth and chuckled, very happy. Su Ming, don't try. The devil fruit tree is the product of the combination of celestial dragons' cutting-edge technology and the power of this world. Not to mention you, even I can't break free. Actually, I've always been curious. I know all the devil fruits, but your ability definitely didn't come from the devil fruit tree. How did you acquire this ability? Su Ming was trapped by the dark green vines and couldn't move. He could only look coldly at the crazy woman in front of him. Su Ming had no interest in answering her question. Yim's eyes turned, he leaned close to Su Ming's ear and whispered. It's okay if you don't want to tell me. In fact, the devil fruit tree has another ability, which is to devour other people and generate new devil fruits. When the tree bears your fruit, I will eat it, then I will know all your secrets. I'm looking forward to it. The dark green vines began to tighten, dragging Su Ming and gradually merging into the devil fruit tree. Chapter 318 Mother of the Dragon. The vines wrapped around the body kept tightening. Su Ming was dragged into the trunk of the devil fruit tree little by little. Consciousness also fades away little by little with time. In the end, all he saw was Im's cold and somewhat crazy laughter. Yim watched Su Ming being completely devoured by the devil fruit tree. It's so hard to find an interesting guy. Yim shook his head, with a hint of regret in his words. She turned and walked into the hall again. Walked through the corridor that is blocked by a group of pirates. The crowded crowd stepped back unconsciously when they saw Im. Im's eyes were always on the devil fruit tree, and the pirates in front of her seemed to not exist in her eyes. With every step she took forward, her body grew a little bigger. The pirates gradually changed from their initial fear. Some people in the crowd squatted on the ground, holding their heads in pain. Some people looked confused. After a few breaths, the weak-willed pirates in the field drew out their weapons with trembling hands. Their eyes were no longer filled with pain and confusion. All that remains is the purest evil. They swung their knives at their companions without hesitation. The hall suddenly became a river of blood. Yim was like a messenger from hell, and wherever she went, it became a part of hell. Until you reach the devil fruit tree, Yim's appearance has changed dramatically. Its huge body broke the ceiling of the palace. The originally white robe had unknowingly turned into a pitch-black skirt, covering the ground and covering her feet without leaving any space. Above his head, the ends of the curled dragon horns glowed faintly, as if reflecting the swaying branches of the devil fruit tree. The fight between the pirates in the hall is still going on. The sticky blood covered everyone's feet. At some point, the appearance of this group of crazy pirates changed a little. They no longer look like human beings. Instead, it looks more like a demon escaping from hell. They moved among the crowd with bloodthirsty smiles on their faces, enjoying this feast of killing. The huge Im was like a real god, standing beside the devil fruit tree and looking down at the scene quietly. The raised corners of her mouth seemed to say that she was very satisfied with the scene before her. Several members of the Straw Hat Pirates also had painful expressions on their faces. But thanks to his will, he has not completely fallen. Even so, several people felt uncomfortable. Hey, green algae head, I'm not in a good state. I feel like there's a voice in my head, constantly telling me to kill you. Sanji's eyes were bloodshot. He knelt on the ground, grabbing his hair, with a ferocious expression. Zoro closed his eyes, tightly grasped the knife in his hand, and his body trembled continuously. Shut up, green algae head. Even without that sound I would want to chop you up every day. But not now. This should be Yimyu's ability. She can manipulate the evil thoughts in other people's hearts. Advertisement. The group of people below who were involved in the killing must have been caused by her. By the end of his speech, Zoro's gums were covered in blood from clenching his teeth so hard. I just saw Su Ming was also swallowed by the devil fruit tree. Even he is no match for Yimu. Then we. There was some despair in Robin's eyes. It's not just the fear of death. It's more of a sense of unwillingness. I already know the entire history, but before I can spread it, I will be buried here along with history. This is the biggest regret for a scholar. Im glanced at the Straw Hat people out of the corner of his eyes full of contempt. The reason these people can hold on until now is not because of their strong will. Although Luffy had been swallowed by the devil fruit tree, his consciousness had not completely dissipated. That guy is very obsessed, and if you forcefully stimulate him during the fusion stage, something unexpected might happen. What's more, he now has to distract himself from integrating this guy Su Ming. It was precisely because of these two reasons that Im kept the Straw Hat people and did not rush to deal with them. It was found that only 1 out of 10 pirates were left in the hull. The remaining pirates had completely lost their human form and turned into monsters in the fight. Im closed his eyes and slowly raised his head. She opened her mouth and a shrill, piercing whine came out of it. All living beings on the island could hear it clearly. The sound seemed to penetrate people's souls and make them tremble unconsciously. Under Im's feet, the blood that covered the hull began to surge like boiling water. The bright red blood gradually turned black, connected with the hem of Im's skirt, and began to spread outward. Shanks, who followed, saw everything that happened in the hull. He gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and slammed them hard on the ground. Damn it. Luffy was swallowed. Su Ming was defeated. Is there really no one who can stop this guy? Raftel Island, black mud continues to spread. Anyone on the island who touches the black mud will have their body twisted and then turn into a complete monster. Those who do not have the ability of the devil fruit tree are directly swallowed by the black mud and become a part of it. The pirates who came for the treasure, when they saw their companions being swallowed by the black mud, were filled with fear and ran away desperately. What the hell is this? Help, I don't want to die. Escape. Escape to the sea. The pirates completely gave up on the so-called great treasure. At this moment, they just want to escape from this purgatory as soon as possible. I thought I would be safe if I escaped to the sea. However, after the black mud stayed at the seaside for a while, it began to merge with the seawater and continued to expand. The seawater assimilated by the black mud clung to the pirates' ships like poison. Soon screams rang out on the deck of the pirates. In the distance, Garp and others were standing on the warship. They originally wanted to follow Su Ming to deal with Yim, but were scolded by Su Ming. The battle between Su Ming and Yim was no longer something they could participate in. Even if I go, I will just be a hindrance, it's better to stay away. They saw clearly the scene of the black mud engulfing the pirates just now. Advertisement looking at the black mud that was still expanding and showed no sign of stopping, everyone broke out in a cold sweat. At this moment, they found that they could do nothing but pray silently that Su Ming would be safe. Uncle. Su Ming, who was in a daze, suddenly woke up. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a pure white world. Su Ming looked around in confusion. Uncle, the familiar voice spread again. Su Ming turned around suddenly and saw Luffy sitting cross-legged on the ground not far away, grinning at him foolishly. Uncle, you're awake. Su Ming stared at Luffy for 2 seconds, then smiled bitterly and shook his head. Where is this? Su Ming walked up to Luffy and sat down as well. This is our spiritual world. Our bodies are still trapped in the devil fruit tree. Su Ming nodded. Although I was unconscious, I still remembered what happened before. Im's strength was indeed beyond his expectations. The moment he was tied up by the devil fruit tree, Su Ming felt that all the strength in his body had been drained. The power of the Thunder God fruit could not be used at all, even Haki was suppressed. He was sucked into the tree before he could even resist. But he was not completely powerless to fight, it's just that Im's strength grew so fast that he was completely unable to react. The most urgent thing right now is how to get out of this place. Su Ming was thinking when Luffy spoke again. Uncle, are you thinking about how to get out of here? Don't worry, the speed of time here is different from that outside. And even if you go out now, you will most likely still not be a match for Yimu. That guy is not as simple as he seems. Why don't you listen to me talk about I am first? Su Ming narrowed his eyes and looked at Luffy silently, motioning for him to continue. Luffy grinned. Uncle, do you know why Yimu suddenly became so strong? Su Ming shook his head. He could feel that Yim had been hiding his strength, but he didn't expect him to hide so much. This matter is very unreasonable. That guy didn't eat any dragon fruit. What she ate was actually the human fruit, a mythical beast species. Luffy paused, deliberately keeping the question in suspense. However, seeing that Su Ming had no intention of responding, Luffy spoke in frustration. Tiamat, the Mother of Dragons. Chapter 319. Joy Boy, A Stronger Realm, Liberation. Luffy said the name of I am Devil Fruit word by word, and Su Ming narrowed his eyes slightly. Tiamat. The Mother Goddess who created the world and all gods in legend. But then his temperament changed drastically, and he was ready to destroy the world just because it was noisy. He can be said to be a powerful yet selfish god, of course, these are all legends. But judging from the story alone, this fruit does look very similar to I am. That's right. Luffy nodded. The ability of this fruit is not as simple as just turning into a giant dragon. In fact, turning into a giant dragon is only the first stage of this fruit. It also has the ability to control the evil thoughts in other people's hearts. Even the slightest evil thought will be infinitely magnified by the power of this fruit, and will eventually destroy itself. And the fruit's final form will become the Mother Earth just like in the myth, with the power to destroy everything. Luffy finished describing Im's fruit ability in one breath. Su Ming had his eyes closed on the opposite side, and only opened them slowly after Luffy finished speaking. His eyes were sharp, like a blade that could penetrate everything. Luffy felt a little uncomfortable with Su Ming's gaze. He scratched his head with his hand and asked in confusion, is there a problem? Su Ming shook his head, the corners of his mouth curled up in a sneer. I have no problem with Im's fruit ability. Su Ming and Yi Mu have fought before, and the other party obviously hid his strength. Moreover, given Im's status, it is indeed unreasonable for him to only eat one dragon fruit. Although the mythical beast Tiamat is exaggerated, it does fit Im's identity. But Su Ming didn't care about this matter. Su Ming looked at Luffy calmly, and asked word by word. I'm curious, who are you? Luffy was visibly stunned, but he quickly reacted and showed his heartless look again. Uncle, what are you talking about? I'm Luffy. Su Ming's expression remained unchanged, but his tone became cold. Don't joke, Luffy can't possibly know these things. So far, this is only the first time he and Yimu have met. After Su Ming finished speaking, the atmosphere between the two of them suddenly froze. Luffy held his straw hat with his left hand and lowered his head. After a moment, he raised his head again and gave Su Ming a silly smile. Sure enough, this kind of thing can't be kept secret. I'm sorry for impersonating Luffy, please introduce yourself again. Advertisement. I am the last ruler of the D tribe 1,000 years ago, the native inhabitant of this island. You can call me, Joy Boy. Su Ming raised his eyebrows, revealing an expression of, as expected. So, you are the will that resides in the devil fruit. Now occupying Luffy's body. Although Su Ming asked this question with a smile, the murderous intent in his eyes was deeply hidden. However, after hearing Su Ming's words, Joey Boy shook his head. No, I am not one of those demons that inhabit the fruit. Luffy is fine now. He just fell into a deep sleep, so I pulled you into this consciousness space. Su Ming didn't say anything. Su Ming also received some secret information during his tenure as 5 elders. Joy Boy is one of them. He is called a liberation fighter and a happy boy by many races. At the same time, he should also be the first user of the Nika fruit. The fishmen, Furmen, and dwarfs all call him a liberation fighter. But Su Ming didn't completely believe this. Su Ming still looked warily at the man in front of him who called himself Joey Boy. It seemed that unless the other party gave him a reasonable reason, Su Ming was going to keep looking at him like this. Joey Boy covered his face with one hand and said helplessly, Okay, don't look at me like that, I will explain all your doubts to you. Su Ming nodded and raised his right hand to clasp in the air. A long sword that was 70% similar to Lacey's appeared in his hand. Su Ming showed an expression of, as expected, stuck the long sword into the ground, leaned against the scabbard, and looked at the other party threateningly. Seeing Su Ming casually condense a long sword, Joy Boy's face showed surprise. Sharp. Su Ming said calmly, it's just a small trick. Just now, Su Ming was not just listening to the story told by the guy in front of him. He has discovered that this is not just Joy Boy's spiritual space. Rather, it is the product of the fusion of my spiritual space and his spiritual space. In other words, here, basically all the means from the outside world can be used. If the other party is not honest, I have the ability to draw my sword against him. Joy Boy rested his hands on his knees. I didn't get too hung up on Su Ming's methods. There was a hint of nostalgia on his face. I won't talk about Im's fruit ability. I didn't lie to you just now. Su Ming nodded. The other party was Joy Boy, who had fought with Im before, so it was not surprising that he knew Im's fruit ability. Advertisement, tell me about the origin of the devil fruit tree. Also, why is your consciousness residing in the devil fruit? And why did Yimu suddenly become so strong? These are the three things Su Ming cares about most right now. Joy Boy grinned. The origin of the devil fruit tree? It has no origin, it is just a product of Celestial Dragon's technology. That's nothing more than the genetic technology of the Celestial Dragons. They're trying to control everyone through the devil fruit. You should have seen the scene where those guys who ate the devil fruit turned into monsters under Im's thoughts. In fact, those monsters were once Celestial Dragons. They transferred their consciousness into the devil fruit, trying to use the fruit to gain themselves great power and immortality. But in the end, they failed because of Yim's betrayal. Im rewrote the devil fruit tree and created this so-called mother of evil dragons, Tiamat. With the help of the devil fruit tree, she can control all devil fruit users. Of course, she was unable to complete the experiment because of the battle between her and our D clan 8,000 years ago. So until just now, she couldn't use the final form of the fruit. Su Ming frowned after hearing this. You said that all fruit ability users will be controlled by him, so what's wrong with you? Joy Boy smiled proudly when he heard this and said, when the Celestial Dragons created the devil fruit tree, they actually borrowed the resources of our D clan. After we discovered Im's idea, we wanted to stop him. But she was already very difficult to deal with at that time. Plus, she was always surrounded by monsters transformed from Celestial Dragons to defend her. We were no match for her at all. If she is allowed to complete the devil fruit tree, the world will fall completely into her hands. Everyone will become her slave and lose their freedom completely. So, I made a decision to merge myself into the devil fruit tree, stealing a large amount of the devil fruit tree's essence, generating the last devil fruit, and starting an 800-year escape. Of course, I have been trying for the past 800 years to find a way to defeat Im. But they all ended in failure, until I saw Luffy and strangely enough, you. Chao Boyi looked at Su Ming, constantly sizing him up, his curiosity undisguised. As for your last question, why did Yimu suddenly become so strong? Joy Boy smiled mysteriously. In fact, devil fruit has a final form after awakening. The user is completely integrated with the devil fruit, and there are no longer any restrictions. Well, I call this stage, liberation, ability liberation. Chapter 320 The Truth, A New Era, Ability Liberation? Su Ming frowned and muttered the unfamiliar word. Yes, it is the liberation of ability. Joy Boy nodded, but because the devil fruit tree has always had defects, other devil fruits lack the essence, so those devil fruits can never reach this level. Su Ming suddenly realized. No wonder Im's strength increased so much in an instant. No wonder she always seemed to be hiding her strength and not using it. It turns out that they were waiting for the devil fruit tree to wake up so that they could extract its essence. Once you reach the state of liberation, you will completely master the power of the devil fruit and there will no longer be any restrictions. Every fruit that is liberated has a power close to the rules. Su Ming nodded, looked at Chao Yibo and asked, so, what do you have in mind? After saying so much, what he meant was that in his current state he was no match for Im. But now that it's been said, there must be a solution. Joy Boy grinned, raised his hand and opened his palm, and a colorful ball of light appeared in his hand. This is the origin of the devil fruit tree. Joy Boy replied, you actually have a part of it. It should be given to you by Im. But those are too few, far from enough to reach the level of liberation. I once stole nearly half of the essence of the devil fruit tree. I can share it with you so that you can compete with Im. Your physique and the development of the fruit are already sufficient. Eat these essences, and you will soon be able to release your abilities. Su Ming looked at the origin of the devil fruit and was not knocked unconscious by the pie that suddenly fell. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Joy Boy, and you? Why don't you use it against Im yourself? It's not a good decision to put your fate in the hands of others. Joy Boy smiled bitterly and shook his head. Sorry, maybe I didn't explain it clearly. The essence I have is only enough for 2 people to enter this level. Although Yimu is alone, she is the developer of the devil fruit tree after all, and she has absolute control over the devil fruit tree. I am no match for him alone. After you eat the origin and release it, you will still have to deal with Yimu. I can't be too far away from the devil fruit tree, otherwise I won't be able to suppress the devil fruit tree and be controlled by I am. Only in this way can we hope to defeat Yim. Of course, this is just my request. You have the right to refuse. If you don't want to, I won't force you. I will continue to wait for the next era. Chao Yiboyi looked at Su Ming with an expression that said, it's up to you to choose, it's up to you. Su Ming narrowed his eyes, hesitated for a moment, then grabbed the devil fruit origin and put it into his mouth. Grand Line, Sabodi Archipelago, the black mud spreading from under Im's skirt has basically polluted the entire route. The survivors at sea gathered at the red line. Relying on geographical advantages, the spread of black mud is slowed down. Damn it, what on earth is this black mud? Neither hockey nor the fruit ability is useful. In midair, Shirahoshi frowned and looked at the sea, his silver teeth clenched, his eyes full of anxiety. Hundreds of super sea kings swam around her. Several of them dragged the Fishman Island in the air, temporarily protecting it from the invasion of black mud. But this is not a long-term solution. She can command the sea kings to resist the monsters that have turned into demons, but she is helpless against the black mud. Below, top Logia fruit users such as Dragon and Aokiji are resisting the invasion of black mud on the red line. The two men's eyes were bloodshot and their foreheads were covered with sweat. It was obvious that they had reached their limits. Damn it, is this the end? There was a strong look of reluctance on Dorag's face. Several people squeezed the last bit of strength in their bodies, trying to stop the black mud from spreading. However, snap! A sound drilled into my ears. A crack appeared in the frozen black mud of Aokiji, and everyone's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. The black mud was like a flood that broke through the dam, instantly engulfing most of the red line. It was about to submerge the entire red line. Suddenly, the black mud thousands of feet high stopped in midair. What's going on? Everyone frowned, looking at the scene in front of them in confusion. The black mud seemed to have life, making way for a path on the sea surface. The huge IM walked out from the cleared road and came in front of everyone. At this moment, IM was standing on the black mud, and was actually much higher than the red line. Everyone was like little ants in front of her. Just one look at it makes people feel powerless from the inside out. IM, who looked like a god, looked at everyone with a mocking look on his face, as if he was mocking everyone's unawareness of their own abilities. She raised her hand and touched the unbroken ice with her fingertips. The ice layer that was 100 meters thick shattered in an instant. Everyone's resistance seemed so powerless in front of her. Seeing this, some people on the red line completely gave up resistance and knelt on the ground with lifeless eyes. What's worse, some people kept kowtowing to IM, shouting, God, treating IM as the real God, and themselves as her believers, just hoping to survive this catastrophe. Looking at the ugly appearance of this group of ants, Pervert felt completely satisfied. Haha, what an interesting ant. Although he was weak, his true ugliness was revealed when he broke through the hypocrisy before his death. It is really worth watching over and over again. Don't worry, after you all die, I will create a new batch of humans. Then they will regard me as a true god. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. What will the newborn look like? Will they also show such interesting and ugly appearances when they die like you? Yim covered his face with one hand, his eyes full of excitement and anticipation. Slowly, a blush appeared on her face and her body trembled a few times. Feeling that he had completely secured victory, IM began to let himself go. In front of the survivors, she showed the ugliest side of her heart without reservation. She did not use the power of her fruit, but simply stretched out her hand and crushed people on the red line to death one by one like ants. The miserable screams before the death made her tremble with excitement, and the blush on her face became more and more beautiful. Only a hint of scarlet remained in her pupils. Garp and others tried to attack IM, but the force field protecting Im's body made it impossible for them to get close. Even if they tried their best, they couldn't even touch Im's clothes. Everyone was in complete despair. It's over. No one can stop her anymore. Garp knelt on the ground weakly, the light in his eyes gone. Dorag, Aokiji and the others also slowly lowered their hands. He seemed to have accepted this fate. Slowly, the people killed by IM stopped screaming. Yim's brows furrowed. Scream, why don't you scream? You bunch of damn ants, why don't you please me? Yim angrily slapped his hands down, crushing hundreds of people to death. However, this time, these people did not beg for mercy, nor did they make any sound. Their hearts are dead. Hateful, in that case, let's all die now. The black mud hanging above everyone's heads began to wriggle again. It was about to submerge the entire red line. Boom. A sharp thunder sounded between heaven and earth. The next second, the entire sky, in every direction visible to the naked eye, was filled with thick thunderclouds. Look at that. Among the survivors, someone suddenly pointed to the sky. I saw a flash of lightning passing through the clouds. The lightning was extremely fast, and it came from the horizon to the top of the head in the blink of an eye. Boom. A flash of lightning fell. Wherever the thunder passed, the black mud seemed to have met its nemesis and avoided it. The black mud that originally covered everyone's heads also shrank back to IM under the lightning. The lightning dissipated, and a figure stood in midair blocking IM. Looking at the figure that suddenly appeared in front of him, IM frowned. Suddenly, she reacted, with a look of disbelief in her eyes. Impossible. Su Ming. How could you possibly escape? No, what's wrong with you in this state? What on earth did you do? On the red line, everyone heard Yim's angry question and looked up unconsciously. There was a figure in the air, surrounded by blue-green lightning. The ends of her black hair were gleaming with light blue light. His naked upper body revealed his muscular body, and a thunder dragon tattoo seemed to be alive and moving around on his body. Su Ming made a move casually, and a bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Bang! The thunder hit Im's defensive force field, and the two ultimate forces collided with each other, making a loud noise. The universe is like the sound of Huang Zhang and Da Lu. Everyone standing on the red line covered their ears in pain. His eyes still looked uncontrollably in the direction of the two of them. I saw that Im's originally invisible defensive force field began to crack like a glass mirror under the bombardment of thunder. The crisp crackling sound is particularly harsh. Yim recovered from his shock. Looking at the gradually broken force field, an extremely angry expression appeared on his face. Snap! With the last crisp sound, the defensive force field around Im was completely shattered, turning into transparent fragments in the air and falling one after another. The thunder representing destruction did not stop at all after breaking through Im's defense field, and reached Im's head in the blink of an eye. Yim suddenly raised his head, glared at Su Ming standing in the air with his scarlet pupils, and opened his mouth. Ah! The piercing decibels made the sea surface tremble constantly. The sound waves turned into sound rings that were visible to the naked eye. The thunder shattered. Su Ming frowned slightly, but quickly recovered. He raised his hand and snapped his fingers casually, and the dark clouds began to roll. Lightning continued to gather in the clouds. Boom! The blue lightning illuminated the dark clouds a little. After the first thunder fell, countless thunders followed. Each bolt of lightning was no weaker than the one that broke through Im's defensive field. Im's scream was drowned out by the rolling thunder. After one strike, all the black mud on the sea surface disappeared. An area of 1,000 miles in radius turned into a field of thunder. Electric arcs kept flashing in the blue sea. Because of his huge body, Im endured more of the thunder. The exposed skin turned black and looked miserable. Stinky boy, you're finally here, ha ha ha, I knew that this kid would be fine. Garp, Sengoku, Zephyr and other old men couldn't help crying as they looked at the figure in the sky. On the red line, the people who originally had only despair in their eyes now glowed with brilliance again. It's Su Ming, it's really him, he's fine. Su Ming ignored the people below. He stood in midair, looking down at Yim. His eyes showed neither joy nor sadness. Such a look completely angered Yim. Su Ming, why aren't you dead? Why do you always come to hinder me? Ant, die. Im's long hair danced and a stream of energy gathered in his mouth. The surging energy burst out. Su Ming's expression remained unchanged, and he opened his palms to block in front of him. In the energy frenzy, Su Ming stood still. No matter how Yim vented, Su Ming was like a reef standing on the coast for 10,000 years, with no sign of moving. The people watching the game on the red line looked at this scene and swallowed subconsciously. Su Ming's ease even gave them the illusion that they could do it too. But reason still told them that just because Su Ming could do it, it didn't mean they could do it too. Even if the energy released from Yim's mouth was weakened by Su Ming, the aftermath would fall into the sea and leave a 100-meter abyss. This shows how terrifying Im is this season. They are no longer considered human beings. God, this is a battle between gods. Khalifa listened to everyone's discussions and looked up at the man standing in the energy frenzy, with only admiration in her eyes. God, maybe it really is. As if feeling a little annoyed, Su Ming narrowed his eyes slightly and clenched his open palm suddenly. The energy that Yim was still releasing suddenly stopped. Bang! Advertisement. The energy exploded, and Imbi's body, which was larger than an island, staggered and fell into the sea, looking miserable. Su Ming finally spoke. 800 years. It has been a full 800 years since you celestial dragons came to this world. You treat the natives of this world as slaves, humiliating them at will and showing no humanity. You still want to destroy the world now. The sins you carry are beyond redemption. Only death can bring liberation. Today, I will send you on your way. Su Ming was like a god descending to earth, raising the long sword in his hand. Lightning flashed in the void, and an extremely tall and majestic figure condensed behind Su Ming, with the same movements as Su Ming. The thunder between heaven and earth gathered in his hands, turning into a blade of judgment, and the target was Im. In front of the figure condensed by Su Ming, even Im in the form of Tiamat still looked small. When everyone saw the figure formed by thunder behind Su Ming, the same thought popped up in their minds at the same time. The majesty of heaven cannot be violated. Im, who was sitting in the sea, suddenly laughed. She raised her head and looked at Su Ming, her face full of madness. Ha ha ha, Su Ming, I really didn't expect that you could successfully liberate the devil fruit. But you're dreaming if you want to judge me. Su Ming frowned. It seems that Yim still has some trump cards that he has not used. As soon as he finished speaking, the sea surface began to shake. Im's body gradually returned to its normal size. She stood in midair like Su Ming, with a sneer on her face. Su Ming, don't forget, I am the creator of the devil fruit tree. Now let me show you. Before he finished speaking, Yim's expression suddenly changed. For some unknown reason, the shaking of the sea surface suddenly stopped. Half suspended in the air, Joy Boy's voice rang out. Su Ming, right now, I have suppressed the devil fruit tree. Yimu's expression changed drastically. Joey boy. Su Ming saw the right opportunity. A faint blue light flashed in his eyes, and he drew out the scabbard with a clang of lacy at his waist, and black lightning wrapped around the blade. The world in front of her eyes began to change, and blood-red threads and dead points that foreshadowed death appeared on her body. A flash of lightning flashed across the sky. The onlookers only saw Su Ming standing in the same place 1 second, and passing by Yim the next. The whole world suddenly became quiet. The surging black mud in the sea turned into a pool of stagnant water. The depressing thunderclouds in the sky gradually dissipated. Su Ming stood in midair without looking back, and slowly inserted the lacy in his hand into the scabbard. It seems like nothing happened. Click, the blade is sheathed. Yim finally moved, and she tried to turn her head stiffly. However, every time she moved an inch, her body flew away like confetti. She wanted to open her mouth to say something, but she found that her mouth had disappeared without her knowing. Su Ming turned around and looked into Imna's remaining eyes. There was resentment, hatred, and fear in her eyes. But as the power of cause and effect spreads, everything disappears. The sky, which had been gloomy for a long time, was once again filled with sunshine, shining on the sea, relaxing the tense strings in people's hearts. At the junction of the sea and the sky, Joyboy came walking on the waves that had turned into rubber, just in time to see the last moment of Im's disappearance. Su Ming fell back onto the red line, looking a little tired. The state of liberated abilities is powerful, but the consumption is also extremely terrifying. The lightning and hockey on his body began to dissipate uncontrollably. Haha, Su Ming, I knew we would succeed, 800 years. It's finally over. Joyboy was very excited and walked towards Su Ming. Su Ming nodded and took a deep breath. Yes, it's finally over. All that's left is the finishing touches. Joey Boy came behind Su Ming, his face hidden by a straw hat revealed a weird smile, and said, yes, there are only some finishing touches left. Puff. He hadn't finished his words when he suddenly widened his eyes, lowered his head, and looked incredulous. Su Ming, who had been carrying him on his back, actually stabbed the knife into his chest. Death instantly enveloped Joyboy. Su Ming turned around slowly and looked at Joey Boy expressionlessly. At this moment, Su Ming no longer had the power of the Thunder God fruit. Not even hockey, but those eyes still radiated a light blue light. Death-seeking demonic eyes. Su Ming drew back the gift of thunder and said calmly, killing you is the most important step in finishing the job. In the distance, Garp and others were about to step forward when they saw Su Ming stabbing Luffy. For a moment, Garp and others were all stunned. What's going on? Why would Su Ming attack Luffy? What are you doing, little brat? The confused crowd shouted. Su Ming ignored it, his eyes still on Joey Boy in front of him. Su Ming, you were crazy, I helped you kill Yimu. Or do you want to be the second I am? Joy Boy, who looked like Luffy, covered his chest and shouted at Su Ming unwillingly. Su Ming pulled a disdainful smile at the corner of his mouth. Joey Boy, you've been acting for so long that you've almost forgotten who you really are. Upon hearing this, Joey Boy was stunned for 2 seconds. Su Ming spoke again. You have been lying to me from the beginning. You do want to kill I am, but at the same time, you want to kill me more, right? What they said about not being able to get too far away from the devil fruit tree and waiting for 800 years to find an opportunity is actually all lies. The truth is, you want Yimu and I to perish together, and you to reap the benefits. In these 800 years, if you had been willing, you actually had many opportunities to perish together with Yim, but you still chose to wait. Waiting for an opportunity to eliminate Yimu without any harm. Right? Joyboy, the last ruler of the D-clan, a tyrant. At the same time, Garp and others also rushed over. After hearing about the D-clan and the tyrant, everyone was stunned. Garp suppressed his sadness and stopped everyone who wanted to rush up to question him. Wait, things may not be as simple as we think. I believe that Brat Su Ming, he will not hurt Luffy. Although he said this, Garp was actually equally unsure. After all, it happened right in front of me, but after years of getting along, Garp chose to trust his disciple. I believe he won't harm his family, even if it is true, he must have his reasons. When everyone saw Garp say this, they all stopped and stood at a distance. After hearing what Su Ming said, Joey Boy lowered his head, and his straw hat covered his entire face, making it impossible to see his expression. His shoulders heaved. A dry laugh came from his mouth. Haha. I really didn't expect that a plan of 800 years would fail in the end. Joey Boy raised his head. His face no longer had the innocence and naivety as before, and his eyes were full of hostility. But in the blink of an eye, calm was restored. He smiled bitterly and looked at Su Ming. Can you tell me when you first doubted me? He had clearly hidden it very well, and had not even shown any ill will towards Su Ming until the moment before. Why did Su Ming stab himself without hesitation? Su Ming thought about it. When? Probably when you see those rare species all praising you without exception. Joy Boy was puzzled. Why, if everyone is praising me, why do you still doubt me? Su Ming glanced at Joy Boy, who was beginning to disintegrate, and shook his head, a hint of pity in his eyes. This look deeply stimulated Joey Boy. Why? Tell me. Why? Joy Boy's consciousness began to fade. The death perception mystic eyes can not only kill the body, but also the mind. With that knife just now, Su Ming cut into Joey Boy's consciousness. Being able to hold on for this long is already his limit. At this moment, the king from 800 years ago, the last ruler of the D clan, truly returned to the long river of history. The flames on Luffy's body dissipated, and he fell unconscious to the ground. Su Ming looked at Luffy and said calmly, "It's very simple. No one is perfect. As a ruler, balancing the forces of all parties, how can it be possible to satisfy everyone? Unless, those who are dissatisfied are wiped out. This kind of thing is obviously not something celestial dragons would do." Garp and the others saw Luffy fainted and gathered around him, but they found that Luffy had no wounds on his body. "Su Ming, Luffy," it was Khalifa who spoke. Su Ming shook his head. "It wasn't Luffy just now. The will of the devil fruit, Joy Boy, took over Luffy's body and has now been killed by me. As for whether Luffy can wake up, it depends on his own luck." Su Ming was not sure about this matter. Garp opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but finally swallowed his words back. He knew in his heart that Su Ming had done nothing wrong. Drawing the knife without hesitation is the most correct decision. But as a family member, he still felt a little reluctant. Zephyr patted Garp on the shoulder. "Well, Su Ming didn't say that Luffy must be in trouble. You don't know this kid well yet. He might be alive and kicking and eating meat tomorrow." Garp said nothing. Zephyr saw this and knew that it was useless to say more. He walked to Su Ming and looked at him, looking a little tired, and asked with concern. "How are you? Are you okay, little brat?" Su Ming shook his head. "It's just a little bit weak, nothing serious. The sky has completely cleared up." The sea became calm again. Shirahoshi commanded the Sea Kings to release the Mermaid Island back into the sea, and he came to Su Ming and held Su Ming's arm, with tears in his eyes and a little heartache. "Master." Su Ming nodded. Gion also stepped forward and asked, "Now that I am is dead and Joy Boy's consciousness has dissipated, everything is resolved, right?" Su Ming smiled. "One last thing." "What?" Everyone looked at Su Ming curiously. Su Ming did not answer anyone and just sat down. After a short rest, Su Ming's condition recovered a lot. He stood up and looked in Raftel's direction. "Wait for me, I'll be back soon." After saying that, Su Ming once again turned into a flash of lightning and disappeared in front of everyone. Everyone was left looking at each other in bewilderment. Raftel. After a baptism, Raftel ushered in tranquility and restored the ancient city ruins to their original appearance. But the wreckage and bloodline all over the ground don't fit in here. Su Ming came to the devil fruit tree. As if sensing Su Ming's arrival, the branches of the devil fruit tree swayed. Su Ming smiled when he saw this. In this catastrophe, most of the fruit ability users died. At this moment, the devil fruit tree is full of devil fruits again. Dark fruit, blue dragon fruit, soul fruit. There are also two unique fruits on the top of the tree. It was the fruit of I Am and the fruit of Joy Boy, who also returned to the fruit tree after death. But compared to other fruit trees, these two fruits appear abnormally shriveled, as if all the water had been drained out. Su Ming knew that this was because the will of I Am and Joy Boy was no longer in the fruit. In fact, it is of no use anymore. Su Ming reached out and stroked the trunk of the devil fruit tree. A gentle force flowed along his arm into Su Ming's body. His physical strength, which had been reduced to the lowest point, was restored immediately. Su Ming had a smile in his eyes. He could feel that the devil fruit tree was conveying a message to him. Recognize yourself as the master, control the origin of all devil fruit trees, and become a true god. This so-called control is definitely not half-hearted like Iam's. It's not like Joy Boy turned himself into a devil fruit, but it's real control. Su Ming will become the true god of this world. Su Ming smiled. Becoming a god is such a temptation. No wonder I Am and Joy Boy couldn't resist the temptation. Advertisement. But now, it's all cheap for me. Well, becoming the kami of New World is a good option. The devil fruit tree seemed to be responding to Su Ming, and its branches swayed even more violently. Clang. The sound of a knife. The knife flashed across the trunk of the devil fruit tree. Su Ming supported himself and watched the wound on the trunk of the devil fruit tree spread little by little. A sticky liquid like blood flowed out. The devil fruit tree began to shake and twitch violently. Su Ming flew backwards. As soon as the front feet left, dozens of thick tree roots broke out of the ground and whipped the ground wildly like twisted tentacles. The tree trunk that was cut off by Su Ming fell to the ground with a thud, and began to wriggle and twist like a worm, making a shrill sound. Su Ming stood not far away, looking at the devil fruit tree squirming on the ground and sneered. In front of him, the system that had been silent for a long time popped up a message again, and it was particularly urgent. Ding. Release the ultimate mission, fuse the devil fruit tree, reward. Ding. The ultimate mission is released, fuse the devil fruit tree, and reward 100 trillion lazy points. Ding. The ultimate mission is released. Fuse the devil fruit tree. The time limit is 3 minutes. If you fail within the time limit, you will be killed. Su Ming showed a sneer on his face. Ding. Remind the host to merge immediately. That's enough, stop pretending. I don't know whether I should call you the devil fruit tree or the system. Su Ming interrupted the system with an angry shout. What thunder god fruit, what life potion, what super satellite orbital cannon, these are all you're doing. It's hidden really deeply. M and Joy Boy never guessed until their death that the devil fruit tree studied by celestial dragons did not fail. On the contrary, it succeeded and was too successful. So much so that you become conscious, you have control over all of celestial dragons' technology. The realm of the fruit is also about selecting a suitable body for yourself. If I had chosen to merge with you just now, you would have used my body to become a true god. System messages no longer pop up. The tree trunk that was cut off by Su Ming twisted for a while, and an extremely old human face appeared from a tree hole. It is 70% similar to a human face. The reason why I say 70% to 80% is because that pair of pupils are pitch black and have nothing to do with humans. Instead, it looks more like the compound eyes of some insect. It gave Su Ming a resentful look, and then began to lose its vitality rapidly. The thick tree trunks curled up like dead insects. Su Ming felt that the power of the Thunder God fruit and the power of the Death Perception eyes in his body all began to dissipate and eventually disappeared completely. And similar things are happening all over the world. On the red line, Ace's face changed, as if he had sensed something, and he tried to light a flame on his fingertips, but there was no movement. My fruit ability disappeared. On Raftel, Su Ming was not surprised by the result. After all, the Devil Fruit Tree is a technological product of the Celestial Dragons. When the mother body dies, everything related to it will naturally become invalid. Su Ming felt that the Devil Fruit Tree was like a bug rooted in the soil. And the fruit on the tree. Su Ming suddenly shuddered and felt nauseous. He was getting ready to leave. Suddenly he thought of something, turned around to look at the dead Devil Fruit Tree, and touched his chin. When we arrived at the seaside, we saw a lot of wreckage of pirate ships floating there. And some liquor and gunpowder. Su Ming filled the entire hull with dry wooden planks and poured strong liquor on them. At this moment, he suddenly discovered a very embarrassing problem. I am not popular at all. Before, we had the Thunder God fruit, which allowed us to create fire anytime and anywhere. But now, damn it, who said dogs can't eat Mara fruit? People are like this, they only cherish something when they lose it. After working for a while, Su Ming finally ignited the pile of firewood he had piled up. There was a crackling sound from the burning planks and a strange smell of roasting bugs. Su Ming did not rush to leave. He sat in the distance and watched quietly as the flames burned the trunk of the Devil Fruit Tree. Both insects and trees have strong vitality, and sometimes the insects will pretend to be dead. Su Ming, the sixth player, knew the importance of finishing off the enemy, so he did this. The fire burned for a day and a night. During this time, whenever Su Ming saw the fire getting smaller, he would go and bring more wood. Finally, in the early morning of the next day, a shrill scream was heard from the flames. Su Ming stood in the distance and watched this scene, adding more firewood. After flapping for a while, the fire finally died down, and the next morning, only a pile of charcoal remained. Su Ming took a wooden stick and poked in the fire for a while, making sure it was all burned out, then bowed to the fire. Anyway, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to adapt to this world so easily. With such a big fire, you left in a dignified manner. Su Ming hummed a little tune and left Raftel. 1 month later, all fruit ability users were forced to accept that the devil fruit had completely lost its effectiveness. In fact, this incident did not cause much commotion on this sea. Devil fruit is almost a legendary thing to ordinary people and is far less attractive than the young wife at the village entrance. In comparison, another piece of news is what really concerns the civilians. The former world government was dissolved. The Revolutionary Army, Marine and New Marine jointly established a new government. Cancel the Celestial Dragon's noble privileges and abolish slavery. Unite all peace-loving nations and races on the sea to become member states. Build a sea train. Former Marine Marshals Sengoku, Aokiji, Akainu, and Kizaru all abdicated. The new Marine Marshal will be succeeded by the former Marine Admiral Ace. The new world government is taken over by the former leader of the Revolutionary Army, Dragon. But what ordinary civilians don't understand is that the top leadership positions of Marine and world government have been vacant. It seems that there is someone there, but no one has ever seen him. Fortunately, both the Marine and the new government are functioning normally. Civilian life is back on track. In a blink of an eye, 2 years passed. East Blue, an island that couldn't be more ordinary. On the beach, a figure was leaning on a lounge chair, wearing a casual shirt and shorts, holding a newspaper in his hand. Occasionally take a sip of the coconut milk on the side. How pleasant. This person is none other than Su Ming. Suddenly, Su Ming's ears twitched and he turned his head to look, and a beautiful figure suddenly pounced on him. Honey. Su Ming only felt his breathing stagnate and his legs became soft. Then there was a scent of milk. After finally pushing the person away, Su Ming finally saw who the person was. Boa Hancock. Why are you here? Su Ming asked with a puzzled look on his face. Now that Nine Snakes is an official member of the new government, it should be overwhelmed with daily official duties. The Empress Hancock actually came to her place. Hancock looked aggrieved. Darling, I miss you so much. Now I am no longer the queen of the 9 snakes. I have asked the 9 snakes to choose a new emperor. Now I just want to be with you. Besides, I didn't come here alone, you see. Hancock pointed behind him. I saw Shirahoshi, Gion, Khalifa and other girls standing not far away, looking at me with a smile. Su Ming suddenly shuddered and felt as if he had entered a Shira field. Khalifa, the eldest sister among the group, stepped forward, looked at Su Ming with a smile, and asked in a cold tone. How is it, are you touched? Su Ming nodded awkwardly, then quickly shook his head. Don't dare to move. Several women covered their mouths and laughed softly. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Someone else is coming to see you today, here. The women tacitly made way. Su Ming went over it in his mind. Anyone else? Could it be that the romantic debt he owed had come knocking on his door? Is it little Ain, or Hina? Just thinking about it. You little brat. I couldn't find you in the past 2 years, so you hid here. Take this blow from my fist. Garp suddenly appeared from behind the women and punched them without saying a word. Shave. Su Ming disappeared from the recliner. Garp punched a hole in the beach. Seeing Su Ming dodge, the old man showed a satisfied smile on his face. Not bad, you brat. Even though you don't have a devil fruit tree, your hockey and taijutsu are still not wasted. Su Ming curled his lips. Stinky old man, I was wondering who it was, but it turns out it was you who came. His tone was full of disdain. Is it easy to give yourself a vacation? These guys are looking for you all over the world. Garp laughed, he had already gotten used to Su Ming. Stinky boy, I'm not looking for you. As he said this, Garp took out a sound shell from his arms. Look, Sky Island also opened connections with other islands some time ago. This is a little gift Sengoku asked me to bring you. Garp threw the sound shell to Su Ming. Su Ming reached out to take it, and looked at it repeatedly in his hand. After confirming that there are no problems, press play. The next second, Sengoku's hysterical roar was heard. Su Ming. Where have you been slacking off again? Get back here right now. I'm already retired, why should I help you handle the highest affairs of the world government and the Marine? Take your seat. Su Ming curled his lips and threw the sound shell into the sea. Go. Garp seemed to have expected this and grinned. The master and the apprentice talked about their recent developments over the past 2 years. After Su Ming killed the devil fruit tree, Luffy also woke up. However, after the last major purge, there are basically no pirates left on the ocean. Luffy's experience as the king of pirates lasted less than a week before the pirate's profession disappeared into the sea. It feels like getting a pirate's king experience card. But he was not idle either. He pulled up the boat again and started the life of an adventurer with a group of friends. Su Ming and Garp chatted until the sunset. Garp stood up and patted his trouser legs. Okay, brat, it's getting late, and I, an old man, should leave too. He looked at the setting sun gradually sinking into the sea, and in an instant he seemed much older. Like an old man abandoned by the times on the beach, he can neither advance nor retreat. Garp shook his head and turned to walk in the opposite direction. Suddenly, he stopped again. He didn't look back, but spoke seriously. Brat, being able to accept you as my disciple is the proudest thing in my life. Su Ming's expression changed. He stood up suddenly and looked at Garp's back, which was gradually going away. Master. Garp paused. Tears welled up unconsciously and rolled around in my eyes. I cursed in my heart, this brat, does he really want me to cry in front of him? Garp was about to turn around and give Su Ming a big hug. I heard Su Ming behind me shouting, stinky old man, you just broke my parasol and a deck chair, so I'll give you a discount of 500,000 Baileys in total, and I'll deduct it from your pension. Garp's emotions disappeared completely, and he forced himself to hold back the tears that were about to fall. Get lost. You little b*****************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************